Chapter 1246, Insolent. Brother Grumpy glared at the couple with disdain. Officer, you can deal with these unruly individuals, administer appropriate punishments, and interrogate them. There's no need for us to engage in conversation with them. Before he could finish his sentence, Uncle Qing's men erupted in protest. What? Young Master Zhao suggesting confessions through torture? How dare the Zhao family make such an outrageous statement in public? No wonder young Master Zhao had to leave his home. Who would want to return to such a hostile environment? His life is in danger in that mansion. I couldn't agree more. Zhao Zhai felt his anxiety rising and lashed out at the others. Silence. The officer snapped back. How dare you raise your voice in court? Zhao Zhai, your arrogance knows no bounds. The officer inwardly cursed his luck. This man was nowhere near as respectable as second young Master Zhao, and he constantly complained that his parents favored his sibling. Any family would favor a son like second young Master Zhao. If it weren't for the Zhao family's influence, the officer would have wasted no time in dragging Zhao Zhai down and disciplining him. Yet, Zhao Zhai found himself growing increasingly infuriated as he considered that Zhao Yi, not he, should have been the true culprit. Irritated brother had earned his nickname for a reason. Under Uncle Qing's intimidation and Zhao Zhai's ill-chosen words, they tarnished not only their own reputations but also that of Ms.Qin. Zhao Zhai wasn't foolish. He soon realized he had been manipulated by Uncle Qing and couldn't help but hurl insults at him, accusing him of being deceitful and underhanded. This outburst, filled with rage and obscenities, only worsened matters for him and the Zhao family. All eyes turned downward, their gaze fixed on him. Was this the demeanor of old Master Zhao's eldest son? Young Master Zhao seemed to be in a pitiable state. Just then, Zhao Shu made his entrance. Zhao Zhai was left dumbfounded and sharply asked, "What brings you here?" Despite the recent family dispute involving his parents and brother, when facing Zhao Shu, Zhao Zhai felt like the outsider. Initially, the entire family had assumed that Zhao Shu would not return home, so when they saw him, it was a genuine shock. In response to Zhao Shu's words, the onlookers' expressions underwent a noticeable change. Do you welcome her return or not? Of course not. Young Master Zhao, you can't let them spread unfounded rumors upon your return. Absolutely. Laughter erupted among those present. Zhao Zhai's expression darkened. He resented Zhao Shu for appearing unexpectedly and causing him to utter the wrong words. Internally, Zhao Shu couldn't help but sneer. He shot a glance at Zhao Zhai, then knelt down in front of the officer, explaining that he had rushed back because he was concerned about Uncle Qing. Upon hearing about the situation, he had promptly headed to the governmental office. With the culprit now present, the case was poised to be resolved much more easily. The officer quickly grasped the full picture of the situation. When it came to the impact of Zhao Shu's presence, Uncle Qing and the Zhao family couldn't hope to measure up. Zhao Zhai, utterly shocked and disoriented by his brother's sudden appearance, exclaimed, "Have you lost your mind? No one authorized you to sell it." Amusement danced in Zhao Shu's eyes as he calmly replied, "The mulberry garden belongs to my grandparents, and they passed it on to my mother, who, in turn, handed it down to me. All the land contracts are in my possession, and I have every right to sell it whenever I wish. Is there a problem with that?" Chapter 1247, Arrogant Son. Zhao Zhai seethed with anger, his voice dripping with frustration as he confronted his cousin. "But you're also part of the Zhao family, the young master no less. Selling the mulberry garden, how can we produce silk for ourselves?" Zhao Shu retorted with a hint of indifference, "You can always buy it." His suggestion was met with a derisive scoff from Zhao Zhai. "You, of all people." Zhao Zhai's annoyance remained unabated as he accused, "You did this deliberately." Zhao Shu calmly explained, "Those lands were passed down from our grandparents, and I have every right to manage them as I see fit. I need the money, so selling them is my prerogative. If you wish to purchase them, I can intercede with Madame Qiao on your behalf. Perhaps she might consider selling you half. Are you interested?" Zhao Zhai was left in contemplative silence. Where would he acquire the funds? Finally, he sneered, "Just you wait, father will never forgive you." Uncle Qin had managed to gather a group of onlookers, and they began to disperse. "I can't tolerate this any longer. The audacity of that concubine's son. Look at how he treats the legitimate heir, young Master Zhao. They say old Master Zhao is playing favorites. That's preposterous. He has every right to sell what he pleases, doesn't he? Why should he use it to support this unrelated concubine's son? If the concubine's son treated him as a brother, it would be different, but the way he behaves, it seems that neither the brother nor the concubine are decent people." "Exactly. If I were young Master Zhao, I wouldn't stand for such humiliation. We're meant to be a family, but old Master Zhao and the concubine's son hardly deserve to be called that. This is an affront to our dignity." Zhao Zhai seethed with anger and hatred, wanting to retaliate vocally, but he feared the stern reprimands of the officials in the courtroom. So, all he could do was shoot Zhao Shu a fierce glare, silently conveying, "Your actions won't go unanswered." He had overlooked the fact that he would become the center of attention. Witnessing this, discontent among the onlookers grew. The officer concealed his inner disdain and taunted her for her perceived foolishness and ineptitude. "Is there anything else you'd like to add to this case?" It was time to bring the matter to a close. Zhao Zhai snorted and directed a pointed glare at Zhao Shu, silently vowing to bide his time and seek justice. He yearned for the day he could present his case and expose Zhao Shu's actions to the family. Although deeply discontented, Zhao Shu, being Zhao Mu's son, couldn't utter a disparaging word about his father or the Zhao family. As a servant, Uncle Qin remained silent. Sun Qian raised her voice, addressing the officer. "Officer, my master has been unjustly accused. I implore you to uphold justice. Must the wealthy and powerful manipulate intermediates like pawns, framing innocent individuals without evidence? Is this what the governmental office stands for? Disregarding the laws of the Qin dynasty and making baseless accusations will erode morality over time, leading to a decay in society's values. Such actions fail to deter wrongdoers or educate the populace. Please, render a fair verdict, officer." Zhao Zhai's eyes widened, struggling to comprehend her eloquence. He longed to refute her but lacked the education to do so, sensing that her words were far from complimentary. After careful consideration, the officer turned to Zhao Zhai and declared, "Sun Qian is correct. Those who abuse their influence must face consequences. You shall pay Madame Xiao 10,000 liang as compensation and make a public apology in court. This case is now closed." Chapter 1248, Heartbroken. Zhao Zhai comprehended his meaning and panic gripped him. "Officer. What else do you wish to convey?" Zhao Zhai's heart raced, his fear intensifying. He opened his mouth but choked down his objection. He knew what needed to be done, but he hesitated in the officer's disfavor. Zhao Mu and Zhao Yi were unaware of the situation, resulting in the absence of both father and son. Zhao Zhai was left to bear the burden alone. He reluctantly agreed to pay 10,000 liang as compensation and offer a public apology in court. The 10,000 liang would undoubtedly be covered by the intermediaries, it wasn't his concern. However, when he had to bow before Sun Qian and apologize in the courtroom, Zhao Zhai forced himself to do it, his face turning crimson with embarrassment. He secretly cursed Zhao Yi. Thus, the misunderstanding was resolved, and the Zhao family gained notoriety in Hangzhou. Sun Qian returned to the hostel. Zhao Zhai vented his anger and humiliation on Zhao Shu and Zhao Yi. Zhao Shu was right there, and he wasn't going to let him off. As they exited the government office, Zhao Zhai couldn't hold back any longer and stopped Zhao Shu, sneering, "Now that you're back, why don't you return to the mansion? Come with me." They weren't in court, so there was no need to consider Zhao Mu and the Zhao family's face. As for Zhao Zhai, Zhao Shu couldn't care less about him. He sneered as if he had heard something unbelievable. "I told you I'm not returning to the mansion. That's my home, where I was born and raised. If I'm not going back, where else would I go?" Zhao Zhai felt a pang of heartache. He hadn't returned to the Zhao family until he was 12 years old, born to a concubine. He simply couldn't find the words. Before he realized what was happening, Zhao Shu and Uncle Qin had already departed in the wagon. Zhao Zhai seethed with anger as he spat in the direction they had departed. He stormed over to the Zhao family's wagon and curtly ordered the coachman to hasten their journey. He needed to return home as quickly as possible. Once they were back at the Zhao family estate, Zhao Shu wouldn't have any leverage over them. They would all be on the same side. In truth, Zhao Mu, Zhao Yi, and Ms.Qin were already aware of Zhao Shu's court appearance. But now that Zhao Shu had openly declared his intentions, Zhao Mu's presence at the court would be futile. The entire Zhao family would suffer public humiliation. There was no point in pursuing it further. The entire household awaited Zhao Shu's return. Ms.Qin seethed with anger, inwardly cursing why this troublemaker had chosen this moment to come back and disrupt her plans. She still held strong confidence in her scheme, believing that as long as Zhao Shu didn't return, she would secure 100,000 mu of mulberry fields. However, Zhao Mu was deeply irritated by recent events. They had given away precious possessions to play with antiques and money, subjected themselves to humiliation in court, and made a mockery of their reputation, all for nothing. Zhao Shu returned to the Zhao family accompanied by Uncle Qin and 8 formidable servants. The moment he stepped into the mansion, the housekeeper ushered him into the main hall, saying, "Old Master and Madame Qin are waiting for you." Zhao Shu shot the housekeeper a cold, disdainful look. "Madame Qin? Is my father married to a second wife?" The housekeeper stammered, "No, no, then where is this Madame Qin about?" Zhao Shu sneered and brushed past him. Inside the main hall, Zhao Mu and Ms.Qin occupied seats on the left and right flanks of the main chair, with Zhao Yi seated on the left side of the main chair. The maids and elderly women stood nearby, holding their breath, their expressions taut with tension. Chapter 1249, Not Your Seat. At a single glance, the servants' faces appeared entirely unfamiliar. "Ungrateful son, how dare you return?" The instant Zhao Mu laid eyes on Zhao Shu, his pent-up anger of days surged forth, causing him to slam the table and shout. Ms.Qin sighed deeply and spoke with emotion, "Third young master, apologize to the old master." "How can you wound the old master's heart and undermine the Zhao family's foundation? He is your father. He couldn't care less about me. He wishes me dead. Old master, please refrain from saying such things. Young master is still in his youth and prone to mistakes. If you guide him properly, he can surely change. Perhaps the people around him have influenced him negatively, but it's not entirely young master's fault. He's beyond redemption. Utterly useless. Old master, please calm down. Don't let your anger jeopardize your health. Third young master, say something kind to placate the old master. Ungrateful son." Zhao Shu remained silent. Standing there, Zhao Shu watched the scene with an odd smile on his face. Strangely, he felt no anger, disappointment, or resentment. Instead, he found it all rather absurd. He chuckled. Ms.Qin stiffened, and Zhao Yi furrowed his brow as he quietly observed Zhao Shu. He said nothing, but Zhao Mu erupted. "Ungrateful son. How dare you laugh? Are you trying to infuriate me? You must be jesting. People don't just drop dead so easily. What did you say? Our household lacks rules and ethics. Outsiders would mock us, but you seem unfazed. You must be in good health, so there's no need to worry about losing your temper." Zhao Mu. Zhao Mu panted, his gaze fixed on Zhao Shu, utterly perplexed by what he was hearing. Ms.Qin shared his exasperation. Had all her efforts been in vain? "Third young master, stop this nonsense. Old master is discussing something important with you." Zhao Mu snapped back to reality, realizing he was nearly led astray by this troublemaker. "Ungrateful son, we can address this later." "Dad, why the rush? Let's adhere to our traditions." With a sneer, Zhao Shu pushed Ms.Qin aside. That is not your seat. Caught off guard, Ms.Qin let out a cry and staggered backward. Were it not for the help of a maid, she might have stumbled. Furious, Zhao Yi hurried to Ms.Qin's side to lend his support, his gaze filled with anger as he glared at Zhao Shu. What are you implying, third brother? Zhao Shu sneered. How can a concubine assume the position of the family's mistress? What is the meaning of this? Do we have no rules in this family? Zhao Yi found himself at a loss for words. Ms.Qin stiffened as well, her face paling as she cast a pitiful look at Zhao Mu. Zhao Mu felt deeply embarrassed. Ever since Ms. Jing's passing, he had observed that Ms.Qin's stewardship was efficient. He had been living a comfortable life, and Ms.Qin had been ingratiating herself with him. As a result, he had never considered taking a concubine. He had no clue when Ms.Qin had assumed the role of the family's mistress and taken on responsibilities only meant for her. To him, it had seemed like a minor detail, unworthy of concern. Chapter 1250, Not on the Surface. Ms.Qin sobbed, tears welling up in her eyes. Third young master, Zhao Shu's voice dripped with condescension as he dismissed her. You are but a concubine, with no right to interrupt when I converse with my father. How fascinating. Ms.Qin's complexion grew even paler, and dizziness washed over her. Zhao Yi could no longer tolerate the situation and spoke up firmly. Zhao Shu, do not push us beyond our limits. Zhao Shu's expression twisted with disdain as he retorted, I am not bullying a concubine, I am merely imparting a lesson in decorum. And as for you, have you never been taught proper manners? Who granted you the privilege to address me by my name and raise your voice? You. Ms.Qin had grown arrogant over the years, considering herself the mistress of the household. Now, the humiliation she suffered from Zhao Shu, with the servants referring to her as a concubine, was too much to bear. She felt her face burn with embarrassment, almost biting her lip in frustration. Uncontrollable sobs escaped her. This had been her go-to response whenever she faced bullying throughout the years, crying weakly before the old master, who would invariably sympathize with her. It had become an unconscious habit. However, she had overlooked one crucial detail. It wasn't just between her and the old master anymore. Zhao Shu no longer regarded her with disdain. Instead, he looked down on her. Indeed, a concubine remains a concubine, unable even to maintain composure without breaking into tears on such a trifling stage. Ms.Qin's voice caught in her throat, unable to respond. You despicable. Zhao Ye's face turned pallid, and he trembled. He clenched his teeth, choosing silence, as if he hadn't heard a word. He harbored the belief that his father would never let this go unpunished. Zhao Mu, too, felt humiliated but had to begrudgingly admit that Zhao Shu's words held some truth. A concubine remained a concubine, skilled in servitude, flattery, and bringing joy, yet certain distinctions remained unattainable on her part. Enough. Zhao Mu interrupted sharply. Cease discussing trivial matters. What is the status of the 100,000 mulberry fields? Zhao Shu appeared taken aback. Is that all you see in it, father? Consider this. Have you noticed any reputable young women from respectable families associating with us in recent years? Zhao Mu was caught off guard. Ms.Qin's expression shifted, her annoyance bubbling over as she couldn't hold back any longer. Young master, must you subject us to such humiliation? Zhao Shu responded sternly, you aren't deserving of it. Father, inquire around, and you'll find that, aside from those who ingratiate themselves with you, all of whom hail from inferior backgrounds, no proper young lady of a respectable family would entertain the notion of courting a concubine. Their audacity knows no bounds. Ms.Qin felt like her heart had been pierced, a searing wound of humiliation. Zhao Ye's hands trembled with anxiety. Zhao Mu furrowed his brow, comprehending the situation. He had been neglectful. He needed to consider taking a proper wife. Without a rightful matriarch, the family lacked propriety. A sense of embarrassment crept over him. He, the wealthiest man in Hangzhou, didn't even possess a legitimate wife. It was an absurdity. These thoughts led him to inwardly blame Ms.Qin. If it weren't for her small gains, he might have given this more thought. It was his oversight. Observing his expression, Ms.Qin's heart chilled with apprehension and anger. She knew full well that the old master wouldn't promote her to the position of legitimate wife. The Zhao family in Hangzhou held a distinguished reputation, and making a concubine the mistress was unthinkable. Chapter 1251, Himself. But awareness was one thing, and whether they could emotionally accept it was another matter. She felt so unconvinced and wronged, especially after enjoying the power and authority as the mistress of the family for years. She couldn't simply relinquish it like this. Ms.Qin's heart was in turmoil. A sharp glint flashed across her downcast eyes, and she shivered with a cold feeling deep within her. She couldn't even bring herself to remember the 100,000 mulberry fields at this moment. If another woman from the family were to enter the mansion and give birth to a legitimate son, what would become of her and her son? How much would they receive? Not even the 100,000 mulberry fields would remain in their possession. Having firmly made up his mind, Zhao Mu addressed Zhao Shu coldly, "Let's not digress. I'm asking about the mulberry fields. Provide a clear explanation." Ms.Qin and Zhao Yi exchanged a fearful glance, their hearts sinking further as they felt an increasing sense of threat. Zhao Shu's impoliteness towards Ms.Qin didn't elicit any reprimand from Zhao Mu. He simply passed along the message. It became evident that Ms.Qin held no significance to him. If this was how Zhao Mu treated Ms.Qin, what chance did Zhao Yi and Zhao Zhai stand? It was apparent that Zhao Mu's primary concern was his own interests. With a smile on his face, Zhao Shu was about to respond when the housekeeper hurriedly entered and bowed. "Old master, Madame Xiao is here looking for you." Zhao Mu was sneered. "They dare to come? Let them in." It was Sun Qian. Coincidentally, Zhao Zhai returned and entered the room alongside Sun Qian. As he started to berate her, Sun Qian shot him a cold glare, rendering him silent out of fear. When Zhao Zhai realized that Sun Qian was still maintaining his arrogance within his home, his annoyance grew even more pronounced, and he began to utter curses once again. Sun Qian, however, showed no regard for formalities. With a nonchalant flick of his foot, a small stone struck Zhao Zhai's ankle. In response, Zhao Zhai let out a piercing scream, collapsing to the ground in agony, clutching his leg. Sun Qian smirked silently and sauntered past him. Upon encountering Zhao Mu, Sun Qian swiftly conveyed his intention. He was here for money. The official had granted compensation of 10,000 liang and issued an official apology in court. Zhao Zhai had already offered apologies on behalf of the Zhao family, and he had come now to collect the money. Upon hearing Zhao Zhai apologizing on behalf of the Zhao family, Zhao Mu's anger surged even further. He shot a disdainful glare at Ms.Qin, seemingly blaming her for her son's actions. Ms.Qin bit her lip, silently pleading not to be held solely responsible. After all, she wasn't the only one who had raised him. Before Sun Qian could finish his demand, Zhao Yi interjected with a reminder that in court the previous day, he had pledged to compensate with 100,000 liang if he were caught lying. Therefore, the Zhao family should now provide 110,000 liang. This declaration further fueled Zhao Mu's fury, and he cast a cold, questioning look at Zhao Yi, who found himself unable to explain. He hadn't anticipated this turn of events. However, the real question was, what was the official's motive? If he intended to penalize Zhao Shu, he could have quickly retrieved the contract, even with Zhao Shu's return. But there was an inexplicable twist to the situation that left Zhao Yi baffled. Reluctantly, Zhao Yi couldn't deny the truth presented in court, especially with Sun Qian's behavior as evidence. Thus, he averted his father's gaze. Suppressing his anger, Zhao Mu pressed on, "Mr. Sun, about the matter of the mulberry fields, give me the money first. I'm here for the money. As for the 100,000 mulberry fields, old Master Zhao, you're the wealthiest man in Yangzhou, surely you can provide 110,000 liang, can't you?" Chapter 1252, Unthinkable. Zhao Mu sneered, dismissing the sum of 110,000 liang as inconsequential. A mere 110,000 liang? The Zhao family possesses far more than that. Butler, withdraw 110,000 liang from the account. Yes, old master. Mr. Sun, what are Madame Xiao's intentions regarding the 100,000 mulberry fields? Zhao Shu inquired, feigning innocence. Since the mulberry garden belongs to old master and his wife, what are your thoughts on it, young master Zhao? Zhao Shu nodded in agreement. Indeed, I've already sold off the mulberry garden. This revelation sparked another surge of anger within Zhao Mu. He couldn't help but seethe with frustration at his disobedient son. It was an immutable fact, one that gnawed at him relentlessly. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Mu continued, Madame Xiao, are you planning to sell the silk, or? His heart ached once more at the thought. The silk produced from the 100,000 mu mulberry field should have rightfully belonged to him, sparing him the need for any liang. Yet now, it had all slipped through his grasp. Unfilial son. Unfilial son. Sun Qian clarified, we are indeed selling the silk. My madam has made it clear that only those who excel will have the privilege to purchase it. If you wish to acquire some, old master Zhao, you may discuss it directly with the manager. My madam isn't personally involved in these matters. The manager in question was not under Qiao Xian's authority but was instead managed by Zhao Shu and Uncle Qin. Sun Qian was merely a pawn, playing her role according to Zhao Shu's scheme. Upon hearing Sun Qian's words, the Zhao family's hearts skipped a beat. Madame Xiao was not personally overseeing such a substantial enterprise. This revelation hinted at the Xiao family's considerable influence. He couldn't even bring himself to contemplate it. This only deepened the apprehension Zhao Mu and the Zhao family felt towards Qiao Xian. They couldn't afford to underestimate Zhao Shu either. Zhao Mu found Sun Qian's tepid response to be deeply dissatisfying. The silk issue gnawed at him, stoking his irritation. However, Sun Qian remained indifferent to Zhao Mu's feelings. Once the money was in his possession, he took his leave. Before departing, Sun Qian patted Zhao Shu on the shoulder and mustered a forced smile. Old master suggests that young master Zhao pays him a visit when you have the time. We could have a chat. The expressions on Zhao Mu and Zhao Ye's faces shifted slightly. Meanwhile, Ms.Qin ground her teeth in silent frustration, cursing inwardly. This woman had clearly aligned herself with an influential family, explaining her audacity. Zhao Shu graciously nodded, maintaining his smile. Your kindness is greatly appreciated, old master Xiao. I'll be sure to pay you a visit in the near future. Sun Qian acknowledged the response with a nod before making his exit. With Sun Qian's departure, the pretentious atmosphere surrounding Zhao Mu dissipated. He turned to glare at Zhao Shu, still finding him irksome, though he couldn't vent his anger. Moreover, what would be the point of eliminating him? The 100,000 mu of mulberry fields would never be returned. Zhao Mu had initially harbored thoughts of wresting back control of the mulberry fields from Madame Xiao before Sun Qian's arrival. However, following the encounter, he dared not even entertain such notions. He couldn't afford to provoke the homeowner, given the formidable obstinacy of their servant. Zhao Mu understood all too well that he could ill afford to offend Madame Xiao and her husband. The knowledge that he was Yangzhou's wealthiest individual and the loss of respect from the local authorities was evidence enough of this shift. In the end, the Zhao family found themselves at a loss regarding the mulberry fields, a laughingstock without any recourse. Chapter 1253, Identity. What he needed to contemplate was the significance of silk. The absence of the silk mill would unquestionably leave them in distress, but they couldn't proceed without it. Madame Xiao had recently acquired her own mulberry fields, and old master Xiao appeared to have a cordial relationship with his estranged son. If this estranged son could negotiate amiably with Ms. Xiao and her spouse, they might secure silk at a more favorable rate. Ms.Qin remained oblivious to Zhao Mu's thoughts, yet she couldn't fathom why Zhao Mu refrained from reprimanding Zhao Shu. Old master, even if we were to sell the 100,000 mu of mulberry fields, where would the proceeds go? Zhao Mu's eyes gleamed as he directed his gaze toward Zhao Shu. Indeed, money. A conservative estimate indicated that 100,000 mu of mulberry fields could yield at least 700,000 liang, accounting for all expenditures. If the mulberry fields were sold in their entirety, the sum would likely exceed 2 million liang, wouldn't it? With such funds at their disposal, they wouldn't need to worry about purchasing silk for the next 3 or 4 years. In reality, despite the vast scale of the Zhao family's workshop, it didn't necessitate 100,000 mu of mulberry fields to sustain its silk production. Zhao Mu had been consistently selling silk sourced from Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden every year. Ms. Zheng was well aware of this, as was Zhao Shu. What course of action should they take? Ms. Zheng was the spouse, and her son was still in his formative years. Her parents were no longer alive. Historically, her parents had no male heirs, and the Zheng family had made repeated attempts to adopt them. Fortunately, the Zheng family's standing in Hangzhou was not robust, and Ms. Zheng's parents possessed ample wealth to dissuade such efforts. Nevertheless, Ms. Zheng and her kin had a strained relationship with the clan. It was implausible for Ms. Zheng to oppose her husband. So she chose to turn a blind eye and allow her husband to claim all the profits from the mulberry garden, solely to safeguard her son and herself. As long as the deed remained in his possession, there was still a long road ahead. However, now that Zhao Shu had sold the mulberry garden, Zhao Mu stood to lose all the benefits. Third brother, where is the money from the sale of the mulberry garden? Upon hearing the term unfilial son used to address him, Zhao Shu found it absurd. But the change in his father's demeanor indicated one thing: he was now somewhat afraid of him. He was no longer as nonchalant, casual, and indifferent as before. When his father wasn't afraid of him, it didn't concern Zhao Shu. However, now that he wouldn't hold back. Zhao Shu didn't immediately respond. Instead, he turned to Ms.Qin. It appears that concubine Qin hasn't learned when to remain silent or recognized her place. She dares to inquire about matters that don't concern her. Does Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden have any relevance to you? Is the money yours? You are not entitled to the proceeds from Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden. How audacious! Zhao Yi became visibly agitated, his face turning red. Don't go too far. It has consistently been concubine Qin and you who have gone too far. Zhao Shu retorted coldly. Are you attempting to threaten or caution me? You lack the qualifications to do so. It appears both of you have forgotten your true positions. How about we share this tale with others so they can pass judgment? Ms.Qin and Zhao Yi were infuriated. Zhao Shu experienced a mix of satisfaction and bitterness. The bitter part was that Ms.Qin and her son had inflicted immense pain on his mother. His mother was deeply hurt. Faced with a woman like Ms.Qin, who frequently feigned weakness and tears, his mother couldn't take action against her for his sake, allowing her to do as she pleased. She must have been seething with anger, grief, and restraint deep within her heart. Chapter 1254, Ms.Qin's Guilt. But in this moment, he felt no obligation to concern himself with anything. He had reached his breaking point with the trio, and their dealings with the demon were of no concern to him. He could taunt them without restraint. So what if they were infuriated? So what if Zhao Mu seethed with anger? Did he care? Yet, the absence of his mother weighed heavily on him. Ms.Qin was so humiliated that tears flowed freely from her eyes. She turned towards Zhao Mu, her voice trembling with emotion. Master, I've dedicated countless years to your service and given birth to 2 of your sons. I've toiled tirelessly for you and the Zhao family. Haven't I earned some respect? I'm already a grandmother, and the shame is too much to bear. Zhao Mu furrowed his brows, agreeing with Ms.Qin. He had always been captivated by her beauty and grace, and he harbored no fondness for Zhao Shu. He shot an irked glance at Zhao Shu. Enough, third brother, enough. Zhao Shu grinned. So you see my point too? You may not consider this pressing, but I believe it's a matter of utmost importance that demands thorough discussion. After all, our family lacks clear hierarchy and rules. We risk being ridiculed and scorned by outsiders, and chaos may befall our family. Grandmother, you say? You're merely a concubine. Who do you think you are? No one addresses you as grandma. When did you become my father's stepmother? Ms.Qin's body quivered, her lips quaking, and her face turned ashen. She clenched her teeth to stifle her urge to scream. Inwardly, she seethed with curses, wishing she could tear Zhao Shu apart. Dad, Zhao Shu smirked as he addressed Zhao Mu, I've noticed you have several concubines, and you're in the prime of your life. Yet, none of them have borne any children in recent years. It's rather peculiar, don't you think? Could it be that someone doesn't want you to have more offspring? I suggest you investigate this matter. What are you implying, third young master? Ms.Qin let out a piercing scream. She needlessly succumbed to panic. Little did she realize that Zhao Shu's intention was merely to rile her up, to stir trouble for his own amusement. He thrived on such provocations. This was not her first encounter with his selfish and malicious nature. She lacked foresight, driven solely by immediate gains, with no regard for the future. Consequently, there was nothing she wouldn't dare. She acted impulsively, pursuing her desires without restraint. With 2 sons of her own, she refused to let any other woman bear more children. As for the consequences of her actions, and what would happen if she were ever discovered, she had never contemplated these long-term implications. But when Zhao Shu suddenly broached the topic, an unsettling feeling gripped her. She couldn't quite grasp Zhao Shu's intentions. After all, he had inherited a fair share of Ms. Jing's loyal attendants, making it not entirely implausible for him to unearth some hidden truths. Her anxiety caused a flicker of surprise to cross her face. Zhao Mu, who hadn't previously pondered these matters, found himself growing suspicious. Zhao Yi shot a venomous glare at Zhao Shu and silently lamented that his mother must have been deeply shaken. Something must have transpired. He reassured them, Mom, no, Ms. Concubine, please don't be distressed. I know the kind of people you are, and I trust in your character. There's no need for sorrow. Chapter 1255, Get Out. Ms.Qin's reaction was swift. She instinctively shielded her face and began sobbing, her emotions appearing more like anger and sorrow than panic. Zhao Shu, on the other hand, responded with a contemptuous sneer, oozing sarcasm. He had no intention of engaging in an argument with them. If his father became suspicious, mere excuses wouldn't suffice to divert his attention. It was nothing short of a fantasy. Zhao Yi, with a cynical tone, interjected, Third brother, don't attempt to change the subject. Surely, you haven't squandered all the money? Zhao Mu turned his gaze towards Zhao Shu, fully expecting a response. Zhao Shu remained composed, determined to address this issue head-on. Zhao Yi's unexpected visit held deeper implications, and he wasn't about to let it slide. It's inconsequential how much money I possess, and it certainly doesn't concern you. Even if I did spend it all, that's my prerogative. What does it matter to you? If you're envious, why not scrounge up a couple of million yuan for yourself? Oh, wait, you can't, can you? Because you're penniless. Zhao Yi bit his lip, struggling to contain his anger. He reminded himself that his father would surely reprimand his third brother. Growing impatient, Zhao Mu prioritized his silk and weaving enterprises, brushing aside other matters. It was evident that his third son had lost his composure today. As long as Ms.Qin and her son were present, he intended to deliver a message to them. With a stern tone, Zhao Mu addressed Ms.Qin and Zhao Yi, you may leave now. Ms.Qin trembled, and Zhao Yi was taken aback by his father's abrupt decision. The mother and son experienced a blend of humiliation and anger while also harboring an underlying sense of fear. The notion of not allowing them to eavesdrop left them perplexed. Could it be that the old master intended to bestow a significant role upon Zhao Shu? However, Zhao Shu didn't dwell on such thoughts, he remained indifferent to Zhao Mu's plans. What mattered most to him was the satisfaction of seeing Zhao Mu dismiss the mother and son. Concubine Qin, are you hard of hearing? I explicitly instructed you to leave. Zhao Mu remained silent, torn between his son's abrupt command and the presence of Ms.Qin and Zhao Yi, who stood bewildered. Zhao Yi snorted dismissively in an attempt to defend himself. Dad wants to have a private conversation with you, showing you respect, Mom. Let's go. Zhao Shu retorted bluntly, just leave already. With clenched teeth, Zhao Yi held back further comments and departed with Ms.Qin, his face dark with frustration. However, both mother and son appeared disoriented by the sudden turn of events. Zhao Mu had initially requested everyone's departure, but Zhao Shu insisted on retaining Uncle Qing's presence. Zhao Mu had no intention of engaging in a protracted argument, he simply needed funds, and that's what he asked of Zhao Shu. Smiling faintly, Zhao Shu explained, a total of 1.8 million liang. I collaborated with someone to trade horses, sheep, and hides in the northern regions. I contributed the initial capital, while another party invested 1 million liang. The remaining 800,000 liang was used for expenses. Zhao Mu, growing increasingly irritated by his son's demeanor, narrowed his eyes and maintained a stoic expression, unsure whether to believe his account. Undeterred by the bleak circumstances, Zhao Shu chuckled. Dad, you trust me, right? Well, if you don't, there's not much I can do. The fact remains that we're left with no money. Zhao Mu's breath quickened, and he sneered in response, regardless, I'm certain you're telling the truth. Zhao Shu, don't think I can't deal with you. Never forget that you're still a part of the Zhao family. If you continue to act so selfishly and callously, I won't spare a single penny of our assets for you. Chapter 1256, Not Good Enough. Think twice before you speak, Zhao Mu warned. Zhao Mu harbored a few tricks up his sleeve, and he wasted no time getting to the point. If Zhao Shu refused to relinquish the family properties, Zhao Mu would employ tactics to make him step back, ultimately ensuring all the money ended up in Zhao Mu's hands. However, Ms. Zheng had lost faith in Zhang Mu and continuously urged Zhao Shu to abandon the Zhao family and their assets. She envisioned a prosperous future for herself and her son once they broke free from the tainted legacy of the Zhao family. Zhao Shu heeded his mother's advice and distanced himself from Zhao Mu and the Zhao family. He no longer considered himself a part of their lineage and couldn't care less about their wealth. He wouldn't be ensnared in Zhao Mu's trap. With a smile, Zhao Shu replied, very well, I have no interest in the Zhao family's money. I don't need it. By the way, should I leave your mansion? If not, I can find a place at a hostel. Zhao Mu questioned him with urgency, are you absolutely sure about this? The Zhao family's assets are worth over 10 million yuan. You're truly willing to relinquish them? I couldn't care less if it's not mine. Zhao Mu offered one last chance, they'll give you one more opportunity. No need. I've made myself perfectly clear. I don't want what's yours, and you don't need to worry about what's mine. Ungrateful child, leave this instant. Zhao Shu chuckled and departed, but he had no intention of going to a hostel. Not now. Instead, he returned to his own residence, accompanied by Uncle Qing and several servants. Returning to the ancestral home to fulfill his filial duties towards his mother, Zhao Shu found his yard locked and neglected for years. Ms.Qin was determined to erase all traces of the mother and son's presence, ensuring no one tended to their needs. Zhao Shu requested someone to unlock the yard, and Uncle Qing, along with a few servants, set to work cleaning the main bedroom. Standing in the yard, hands clasped behind his back, Zhao Shu gazed up at the magnolia tree he had planted with his mother. When it was first planted, the seedling had been no larger than a copper coin, fragile and slender. After several years of absence, it had thrived. Lush leaves adorned its branches, and delicate buds densely clung to them, promising imminent blossoms. In just a few days, it would be a breathtaking sight, blanketed in snowy white flowers and wispy clouds. Regrettably, his mother would never witness it again. Each time the recent tragic incident crossed his mind, it abruptly halted his thoughts. His mother's life had ended so suddenly, how could he not feel resentment? Zhao Mu seethed with anger, his chest tightening. He continued to berate his disobedient son, but it brought him no solace. Beyond his irritation at Zhao Shu's defiance, a subtle unease and melancholy gnawed at him. It seemed he was on the verge of losing his son. However, his mood shifted as he learned that Zhao Shu was residing in his former yard. Confidence returned to him, and he sneered. He believed he would emerge victorious. After all, the Zhao family's wealth was vast, and even Zhao Shu couldn't afford to part with it. Zhao Mu saw Zhao Shu's actions as mere provocations. If his son genuinely didn't care, why linger here? There was no need to rush, they could afford to wait and observe. Zhao Mu consoled himself, convinced he was still too young and inexperienced to contend with him. The money would ultimately come to him. It was no small sum, and he was determined to secure it. Zhao Yi saw Ms.Qin back to the yard and asked all the servants to leave. Chapter 1257, One End. Ms.Qin clutched her chest, her tears flowing freely. Yi, that wretched man is pure evil. What is he doing here? Why hasn't he met his end outside? We must devise a plan to rid ourselves of him. Zhao Yi seethed with irritation, humiliation, and rage. When he had first entered the mansion, he was but a mere child, fully aware of his status as a lowly concubine's offspring, miles apart from the rightful heir of the Zhao family. The moment he set foot inside the Zhao mansion, it left him awestruck. He had never beheld such opulence, such an exquisite abode, or tasted such sumptuous fare. From that day forward, avarice began to creep into his heart. Ms.Qin had shown mercy, refraining from tormenting the trio, which only stoked his arrogance. As he grew older, his ambition and greed swelled beneath the surface. He concealed his true nature, yet in reality, he had long ceased to care about Ms.Qin and Zhao Shu. In his eyes, mother and son were merely insignificant entities. He believed that eventually, the entire family would fall into his hands. Then, tragedy struck when Ms.Qin met her untimely demise in an accident. Zhao Shu spent an additional 3 years at their ancestral home, cementing the trio's dominion over the mansion. No one dared to challenge him. He reveled in his untroubled existence and, in the process, forgot his humble origins as the son of a concubine. However, the arrival of the legitimate heir shattered his illusions. He couldn't bear the thought of humiliation before Ms.Qin. Yet he concealed his turmoil, for he knew that, apart from being a laughingstock, he had little else to offer. Mother, fret not. Even if the mulberry garden is lost, father will surely recover the money owed to him. The legitimate heir can't outmatch father, can he? If father requests the funds, he'll have no choice but to yield. I truly hope he doesn't. If he doesn't, father will never forgive him, and he'll be forced to leave the mansion. A sinister gleam crossed Zhao Yi's countenance. That would be ideal. If the legitimate heir departed the Zhao family and Hangzhou altogether, he would stop at nothing to ensure their separation, reuniting him with his mother. Ms.Qin clenched her teeth. He's not a fool. He wouldn't genuinely incur your father's wrath. The Zhao family is far too prominent, and he knows how to avoid crossing your father. Mom, there's a long road ahead. If he doesn't offend father today, we'll find ways for him to do so in the future. In truth, it doesn't matter if he actually offends father. As long as father deems him unfilial, then he is. What right does he have to claim the Zhao family's assets? Ms.Qin's eyes gleamed, her sneer laden with malice. You're absolutely right. In that case, he should remain in the mansion, shouldn't he? Zhao Yi smiled in agreement. Whether he stayed or left, his fate was sealed, with no alternative outcome in sight. While I'm at it, I'm concerned that your father may take a second wife. Yi, help me find a way to prevent him from doing so. Zhao Yi found himself at a loss for words. He didn't desire a legitimate mother in the household either. Chapter 1258, Great Space. If his mother assumed control over the family, it would be preferable to entrust the household to any other woman. Only in her capable hands did he truly feel like the rightful heir. Regrettably, he couldn't alter that reality. Mom, don't fret. Dad is preoccupied with thoughts of the weaving workshop and silk. He scarcely considers this matter. Even if he genuinely intends to marry her, it will be months before it crosses his mind. The wedding might not occur until year-end or even next year. We still have ample time. Mom, what if we forge connections with the matchmakers in Hangzhou? If we can't prevent them, we can at least ascertain which girls might be suitable for father. A glimmer of hope appeared in Ms. Qin's eyes as she beamed at him. You genuinely care for your mother and think on her behalf. She might even persuade Zhao Mu to wed the girl she favored as his second wife, without Zhao Mu's awareness. What he needed was a capable household manager, and the intervention of a skilled matchmaker. There was considerable room for maneuvering. They simply needed to expend a bit more money. She was no longer the penniless woman of the past, she possessed substantial wealth, and matchmakers would undoubtedly be drawn to her. You are my son, and it's my son's duty to look out for his mother, Zhao Yi replied with a smile, casually adding, speaking of which, shouldn't elder brother have returned from the governmental office by now? Why hasn't he joined us yet? Only then did Ms. Qin remember her eldest son. Annoyance washed over her. I wouldn't have overlooked this if you hadn't reminded me. But where is he? Going for a stroll while there's a family matter to attend to? How can he be so carefree? Ms. Qin was distinctly displeased. With Zhao Zhai's presence, the three of them would carry more authority than just the two of them. Moreover, Zhao Zhai was a forthright man who wouldn't tolerate any nonsense from Zhao Shu. He might even resort to physical violence. Zhao Shu undoubtedly warranted such treatment. Zhao Yi was consumed by jealousy. Witnessing his mother chastise his elder brother, he found himself defending him and trying to dissuade his mother. As for Zhao Zhai, he had not gone out for a leisurely walk. As Ms. Qin had anticipated, he couldn't wait to return to Zhao Shu's residence and confront him. However, an unfortunate accident had occurred. Ms. Qin had taken a nasty fall, leaving her ankle swollen like a steamed bun. She had to be carried back to the yard, where she lay in bed, groaning and urgently calling for a doctor. Upon hearing the news, Ms. Qin went to visit Zhao Zhai, her heart aching for him as she saw his distress. Ms. Qin found some solace in hearing Zhao Zhai berate Zhao Shu. Later in the afternoon, Zhao Yi paid a visit to Zhao Zhai. Instead of quarreling, the two brothers found common ground in their opposition to outsiders. Zhao Zhai was acutely aware of this fact. However, he soon found himself misled by Zhao Yi once more. After Zhao Yi's departure, Zhao Zhai couldn't help but contemplate seeking revenge against Zhao Shu. A legitimate son? He had no mother, no father, and even his maternal relatives had vanished. So what if he was the legitimate son? He was merely the son of a concubine, and he was determined to make life miserable for the legitimate son, dragging him through the mud. What was wrong with that? By the time he was done, the legitimate son would learn not to trifle with him. But the Zhao family hadn't anticipated that circumstances would change so rapidly. The next day, a representative from the Zhao family arrived, requesting Zhao Shu to pass on the inheritance. They intended to adopt the deceased brother of the clan's leader as the rightful heir. Naturally, Zhao Shu bestowed numerous advantages upon the clan leader, delighting him immensely. Zhao Shu was more than eager to do so. This strategy ensured that he wouldn't be under the direct authority of the senior members and, moreover, allowed him to distance himself entirely from Zhao Mu. Stunned and incensed, Zhao Mu refused to let this scenario unfold. Despite his personal animosity towards Zhao Shu, he couldn't overlook the fact that Zhao Shu was his sole legitimate son. Chapter 1259, Not Truth. His sole heir was about to be adopted. How could he be so shameless? The chief and the clan elders produced Ms. Jing's letter along with the signed evidence. Zhao Mu's face alternated between shades of crimson and pallor, leaving him so embarrassed that he wished for nothing more than to disappear into the ground. He had never anticipated that even Zhao Shu, his own kin, had underestimated the extent of Ms. Jing's preparation. It was Auntie Qin who had safeguarded the letter, eventually passing it on to Zhao Shu when he made the decision to return to Yangzhou. Without hesitation, Zhao Shu had gone to the clan elders before making his journey back to Yangzhou. At home, he was hailed as a paragon of filial piety to his mother for 3 whole years. Furthermore, Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing stood by him throughout those 500 meters for 3 years, treating the senior clan members with the utmost respect and reverence. Their actions garnered praise from the entire family. Zhao Shu had hinted at offering substantial incentives, so why had the chief and group within the clan not come to his aid? The chief was acutely aware that if he did not assist Zhao Shu, he would expose the contents of the letter to the public, leading to Ms. Zhao's humiliation and potentially tarnishing Zhao Mu's reputation as well. The letter clearly revealed the relationship between Zhao Mu and Ms.Qin. Zhao Mu had harbored affection for Ms.Qin, and she had, at one point, broken off her engagement with her former fiancé, who had tragically passed away within 2 years. While it was an unfortunate accident, Zhao Mu certainly hadn't taken any sinister actions against Ms.Qin. However, there was a glaring loophole that could be exploited to create a scandal. Rumors spread without cost, and there was no easy way to counter them. Adding to the complexity, Zhao Mu had fathered 2 sons with his concubines after his marriage. He had even coerced his wife into covering up for him. It was implausible that Ms. Zheng had acted willingly in this matter. With Ms. Zheng now deceased, a great many people would undoubtedly sympathize with her plight. Zhao Mu feared that his reputation would be irreparably tarnished. The entire Zhao family would undoubtedly suffer the consequences as well. It was a situation Zhao Mu was desperate to avoid. With a sneer, Zhao Shu remarked, "Just sign it, old Master Zhao. You already have 2 capable sons and grandchildren. What's the point in holding on to me? You never truly cared for me, did you?" Zhao Mu retorted with a sneer of his own, "If you're no longer my son, don't even think about receiving a fraction of the Zhao family's wealth." This tired argument once again reared its head. Without hesitation, Zhao Shu simply said, "All right." At this juncture, no amount of anger could change anything for Zhao Mu. In the presence of the chief and the elders, Zhao Shu's name was formally stricken from the Zhao lineage, replaced with the designation of brother of the chief. Remarkably, Zhao Shu made no claims on the Zhao family's assets. He made it clear that he would be leaving today. Ms.Qin and Zhao Yi were overjoyed, particularly Ms.Qin, who couldn't conceal her elation. She was poised to take charge of her own family's destiny, a prospect that brought her immense happiness. Zhao Shu did express his intent to claim his mother's dowry, which was explicitly mentioned in her letter as bequeathed to her lineal son. Unimpressed, Zhao Mu sneered, "Since you've been adopted, you can no longer be considered Ms. Zheng's son. Her dowry is no concern of yours." Zhao Shu asserted, "It's entirely reasonable for a woman's dowry to be designated for her children. I'm simply adhering to my mother's wishes in order to safeguard my rights. Don't you believe in your own authority over your dowry? If she's stated her intention to give it to me, then it's rightfully mine. Should old Master Zhao refuse, I won't hesitate to report this matter to the authorities." Zhao Mu harbored doubts about his chances of success should he pursue legal action. After all, Zhao Shu possessed Ms. Zheng's written directive, and, as he correctly pointed out, Ms. Zheng had the legal right to allocate her dowry as she saw fit, as it constituted her private property, separate from the Zhao family's assets. Chapter 1260, Half. Even though Zhao Shu was not legally recognized as her son, she still had the authority to bestow her dowries upon him if she wished. Ultimately, after some negotiation, Zhao Shu reluctantly consented to claim only half of his mother's dowry. However, he intended to do so today, with the chief as a witness, to prevent any potential denial or interference from old Master Zhao. Zhao Mu's expression darkened, and he refrained from further comment, determined to maintain his composure in the presence of the family's elders and leaders. Ms. Zheng's dowry was exceptionally generous, and even if this ungrateful son took only half of it, she would still be left with a substantial sum. Ms. Qin's heart ached. She sided with old Master's perspective. Zhao Shu was an adopted member of the family, and the dowry rightfully belonged to the Zhao family as a whole. She wanted to voice her opinion, but Zhao Shu's derogatory term, concubine, silenced her, reminding her of her subordinate position. To speak up would only invite further humiliation from Zhao Shu. Unexpectedly, when they began to inventory Ms. Jing's dowry in her chambers and storage area, they discovered it had vanished. It wasn't a complete disappearance. According to the dowry ledger, all the valuable items had vanished. What remained were less valuable items such as silk and satin, vases, and large pieces of furniture. The precious items, including gold, silver, jewelry, exquisite jade artifacts, a valuable fur coat, yellow rosewood furniture, 16 or 12 double-sided embroidered screens, and renowned calligraphy and paintings from a bygone dynasty, had all mysteriously disappeared. There was scarcely anything left. What's happening here? How did this happen? Zhao Shu's expression shifted from shock to anger. Zhao Mu was equally bewildered, his face contorted in disbelief. The chief and the others present shared the same astonishment. Old Master Zhao, can you provide an explanation for this? Zhao Shu's outward fury concealed his inner amusement. His mother had indeed been astute. Bit by bit, the dowry items had been discreetly moved out of the Zhao mansion. It appeared that Zhao Mu had been completely oblivious to these developments. Ms.Qin, too, seemed clueless about the situation. Infuriated, Zhao Mu exclaimed, "I have no idea what's going on. I didn't do this." Zhao Shu sneered sarcastically, "So we're not at the Zhao mansion right now, and you claim ignorance? Who has overseen the inner residence all these years?" Instinctively, Zhao Mu turned to Ms.Qin, prompting the chief and the others to follow suit, their expressions laced with suspicion and disdain. How could she have the audacity to pilfer the dowry of the family's matriarch? In their eyes, it was an act unbefitting someone of her limited worldly experience. Ms.Qin never anticipated being accused of such a crime and was visibly taken aback. "I don't know. I didn't do it. I didn't take anything." With a mocking tone, Zhao Shu retorted, "Is that so? Did my mother's dowry simply vanish into thin air? How could I possibly know?" Ms.Qin's anger flared as she replied, "The door has always been locked, and no one has ever opened it. How could I have any knowledge of what transpired?" Zhao Shu smirked, provoking her further, "Interesting. So because the door was always locked, no one could have entered, is that your claim?" Frustration surged within Ms.Qin as she exclaimed, "I don't know, but I swear I had nothing to do with it." Panic gripped her as she struggled to make her innocence clear, despite being completely baffled by the unfolding situation. Chapter 1261, Ms.Qin. If she couldn't explain clearly, that would be a disaster. Zhao Shu's attention wasn't focused on her. After compelling her to utter some futile words, Zhao Shu addressed Zhao Mu with an icy tone, saying, "There's no use in discussing this further. Old Master Zhao, what are your thoughts on this matter?" What else could Zhao Mu possibly say? The dowries couldn't have vanished without reason. It had to be Ms.Qin. It was either Ms.Qin or Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi, or perhaps their daughter-in-law. A wave of embarrassment washed over him. "Just grant me a few days." "I'm afraid that won't suffice," Zhao Shu replied coldly. "I'm not interested in your family's affairs. I only want my share. I have no desire to linger here any longer. Hand over my share, and I'll have no further involvement. Otherwise, they'll be compelled to report this to the authorities and let them decide." Ms.Qin anxiously interjected, "Please don't accuse us. No one has entered this courtyard before, and none of us took anything. Maybe Madame Qin moved them herself?" "Ms.Qin." Zhao Shu erupted in anger. "My mother is gone, and you're attempting to blame her? You're taking advantage of her inability to defend herself? She moved them herself? She couldn't possibly have foreseen her gruesome demise and decided to deal with her dowries beforehand. Furthermore, my mother had so many dowries, it wouldn't be easy to move them. No one in the mansion knew about this? Can't you come up with a more believable lie? I'm warning you, if you dare to defame my mother again, I'll take physical action." Ms.Qin seethed with frustration but dared not utter a word. Yet, deep down, she knew the truth about whether she was carrying anything. The reality was, she hadn't taken anything at all. She didn't take it, and her sons couldn't have tampered with it either, otherwise, she would have been aware of it. Old Master didn't need to be involved either. Zhao Shu wanted to take action, but he couldn't return. If his men did return, he would surely assign someone to keep a close watch, leaving him powerless. So, who else could be responsible? "Old Master," Ms.Qin implored, her voice trembling, addressing Zhao Mu. I truly didn't take it, I swear. Old master, please believe me. Zhao Mu turned pale, speechless. Believe? How could he possibly believe her? Zhao Yi silently moved his lips, lowered his head, and retreated a few steps, saying nothing. In truth, he even harbored doubts that his mother had anything to do with Ms.Qin's dowries. While his mother sounded sincere and didn't appear to be lying, she had always been adept at feigning innocence. That was something he knew all too well. In fact, Zhao Mu shared similar suspicions. He was aware of Ms.Qin's skill in pretense. However, he wasn't particularly bothered by it. Sometimes, when he observed her conduct in his presence, he found it rather amusing. But interrogating her in front of so many witnesses wasn't an option. It would only lead to humiliation if she couldn't endure it any longer. Zhao Shu wasn't ready to give up. His frustration grew to the point where he reluctantly agreed to wait until the next day. The chief and the others let out collective sighs. They were now compelled to remain at the Zhao mansion and await the resolution. They had committed to making a decision at Zhao Shu's insistence, and they had to unravel this mystery. Furthermore, human nature's innate curiosity kept everyone engaged in the unfolding drama. No one was eager to leave until the conclusion was reached. Chapter 1262, Really sad. Zhao Mu confronted Ms.Qin in private and, growing increasingly impatient, pressed her to reveal the truth. Ms.Qin sobbed uncontrollably, struggling to catch her breath as she vehemently denied any wrongdoing. However, her tendency to cry and complain at the slightest provocation, a behavior witnessed countless times before, led Zhao Mu to dismiss her protestations as mere habit. He remained skeptical of her honesty. Frustrated by her continued resistance, Zhao Mu's anger flared, culminating in 2 sharp slaps and an ultimatum: she must confess. Ms.Qin, hands shielding her face, wept bitterly, genuinely distressed this time. She was acutely aware of the trust old master had in her. She wasn't lying. Why did no one believe her when she swore by her honesty? Ms.Qin couldn't fathom the disbelief surrounding her. Nevertheless, she possessed a certain resilience. Whether she admitted to any wrongdoing or not didn't matter much in the grand scheme. What truly weighed on her mind was the fact that Zhao Shu held Ms.Qin's dowry in his grasp, and compensation was scheduled for tomorrow. Even half of the dowry amounted to a considerable sum. The Zheng family owned an impressive 100,000 mu of mulberry fields. While they'd only had them for a mere 3 or 4 years since Ms.Qin's marriage, they'd managed to amass a significant fortune. Growing increasingly irate at Ms.Qin's persistent tears, old master Zhao berated her and ordered her to stay within the premises, forbidding any unwarranted excursions from the yard. He also prohibited Zhao Zhai, Zhao Yi, and their spouses from visiting her. Instead, he summoned Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi to discuss how to address the situation with Zhao Shu. Zhao Zhai's injured ankle had yet to heal, forcing him to be transported here in a wicker litter. Before old master Zhao uttered a word, Zhao Zhai couldn't contain his frustration and let out a string of curses. They derided Zhao Shu as shameless, ruthless, and unscrupulous. Why should they even entertain his money demands? After all, Ms.Qin's dowries were the property of the Zhao family as well. Though his scolding did nothing to resolve the issue, it did provide a certain satisfaction. Zhao Yu and Zhao Yi, being Ms.Qin's sons, had inherited some of her cunning. One had learned her tricks, and the other had inherited her guile. The 3 of them were left with no option but to tally up the liquid assets from the intermediate and have someone open the storeroom to retrieve the valuables. The following day, Zhao Mu attempted to appeal to familial bonds and urged Zhao Shu to join their cause. If the clan leader and the elderly men were to depart, Zhao Shu might receive his compensation. However, Zhao Shu had no interest in wasting any more time with them. They had to compensate him, otherwise, he would report the matter to the governmental office, prompting a thorough investigation. Stealing the dowries of the family's mistress was a grave offense. Once the governmental office initiated an inquiry, it would bring disgrace upon the Zhao family. Annoyed and exasperated, Zhao Mu had no choice but to comply. In the end, they compensated Zhao Shu with 80,000 liang in currency, along with an assortment of antiques, jade, jewelry, and 3 sizable chests, with a total estimated value of roughly 130,000 to 140,000 liang. This underscored the immense worth of Ms. Qin's dowries. The clan leader and the clan elders were nearly incredulous. Without hesitation, Zhao Shu accepted the money and promptly left the Zhao family. He was straightforward, offering the clan leader and the others 10,000 liang and permitting them to select 2 items from the 3 large chests. The clan leader and the elders were overjoyed, treating Zhao Shu as one of their own. They warmly consoled and thanked him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1263, Request. Zhao Mu was wealthy, but his wealth was his alone. He possessed a selfish disposition, offering little benefit to the clan. In contrast, Zhao Shu was far less generous than Zhao Shu. Their haul exceeded 10,000 liang, with each of them potentially receiving 1,000 to 2,000 liang, alongside 2 valuable antiques for emergencies. With prudent management, this windfall could secure the family's well-being for decades. Returning home, Zhao Shu wore a contented smile. That evening, they selected 1/3 of the treasures and brought 30,000 liang to visit Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian at the hostel. Please accept these humble offerings, Officer Xiao and Madam Xiao. Zhao Shu said, eager yet worried about their response. Officer Xiao, Madam Xiao, I insist, consider these gifts a token of our gratitude. Qiao Xian couldn't help but chuckle. Young Master Zhao, since you acquired these freely, we won't stand in your way. Madam Xiao, please, do not feel obligated, insisted Zhao Shu, known for his kind-heartedness, refusing to take back the gifts. Had it not been for Madam Xiao's ingenious plan, we might have left empty-handed. We couldn't have extracted a piece of their wealth before departing. Furthermore, there is another matter I would appreciate your assistance with. Qiao Xian gracefully accepted Zhao Shu's offer, exchanging glances with Xiao Yunduan, who nodded approvingly while accepting the money. Young Master Zhao, we are partners in business, so there's no need to mention it. Zhao Shu sighed deeply. I want my mother to divorce Zhao Mu, but I fear he won't agree easily. Still, I wish to attempt it. My mother and I would rather be interred with my grandparents than have any ties to Zhao Mu. He added with a touch of bitterness, in truth, if I had a choice, I'd prefer to leave the Zhao family and join the Jing family, but that's not feasible. Understanding the situation, Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian exchanged knowing glances. Changing his surname for no reason was out of the question. The Zhao family would never allow it. Furthermore, even if he were to depart from the Zhao family, the Jing family might not readily accept him. If they did, they would likely demand substantial benefits, potentially even hounding him for more than he could bear. Leaving Zhao Mu was already the best possible outcome for him, considering the circumstances. It appeared that securing a divorce for Ms. Qin would prove to be a formidable challenge. Zhao Shu mustered a strained smile. I recognize that my request is quite audacious, and the path ahead is far from easy. If Officer Xiao and Madam Xiao happen to have any insightful suggestions, would greatly appreciate them. If not, we can let it rest. Qiao Xian offered him a sympathetic glance. The constraints of ancient customs were beyond their control. After some contemplation, Xiao Yunduan chuckled. Let's give it a shot. Those IOUs you possess might prove to be valuable. Zhao Shu was taken aback. Qiao Xian had already caught on to Xiao Yunduan's plan, smiling as she elaborated, my husband is onto something. Those IOUs can be leverage. It all hinges on whether old Master Zhao is more inclined to part with his money or divorce. I believe young Master Zhao, you can anticipate his choice, right? Zhao Shu's face lit up with hope. He nodded and grinned, indeed, why didn't I think of that? His attachment to his wealth is undeniable. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1264, Visit. He prioritized his wealth, often neglecting other aspects of his life. Qiao Xian flashed a knowing smile and reassured, you may be adopted, but you share his bloodline, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll stand by your side. Xiao Yunduan, constrained by his status, couldn't directly involve himself in certain matters. He couldn't even visit the vast 100,000 mu mulberry fields, leaving Qiao Xian to handle it alone. Zhao Shu expressed his deep gratitude and guilt as he felt the gifts he had brought were inadequate. He vowed to make it up to her next time. After Zhao Shu departed, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan pondered the situation. Qiao Xian relished the idea of getting involved in Zhao Mu's troubles. The more miserable Zhao Mu became, the happier she felt. She was determined to make the most of the generous gift from Zhao Shu, not wanting to disappoint him. Xiao Yunduan wasn't worried about their actions. He knew that Zhao Mu cherished his wealth and properties, making him cautious not to act recklessly. However, he suggested, let's have Sun Qian and Sun Bai join us. Both Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian had complete confidence in Sun Qian and Sun Bai due to their reliable skills. The next day, Qiao Xian, accompanied by Sun Bai and Li Xia, paid a visit to the Zhao family. Upon hearing that Madame Xiao, the owner of the 100,000 mulberry fields, had come, Zhao Mu was pleasantly surprised. He assumed Xiao Xian was interested in the silk production from the mulberry fields and went out to personally welcome her. Xiao Xian, considering that Madame Xiao might feel uncomfortable being alone, paused and requested someone to fetch Ms.Qin to keep her company. But when he remembered that Ms.Qin was just a concubine, Zhao Mu hesitated. Madame Xiao might be infuriated if a mere concubine served her. He couldn't help but berate himself for forgetting such a crucial detail. In the grand hall, Zhao Mu treated Xiao Xian with utmost politeness. Zhao Mu couldn't conceal his surprise at how young Xiao Xian appeared. He covertly observed her and noted her exceptional demeanor. She spoke with confidence and showed no signs of fear, compelling him to treat her with due respect. Please do not take offense, old Master Zhao, Xiao Xian responded. I am truly honored, Madame Xiao. It is a privilege for the Zhao family to host you. You are most welcome, Madame Xiao, Zhao Mu replied, exchanging pleasantries. Xiao Xian's courteous manner further convinced Zhao Mu that she had come for the silk. The silk produced from 100,000 mu of mulberry fields was substantial, and he was the primary customer, making it a logical assumption. With her presence, Zhao Mu believed he held the upper hand in the situation, allowing him to remain patient and discern her intentions. Zhao Mu felt a sense of assurance, internally smirking at what he perceived as a woman's inability to maintain control. He couldn't fathom why old Master Xiao had entrusted a decision of this magnitude to someone like her. Unaware of Zhao Mu's thoughts, Xiao Xian sensed his prideful demeanor. She wondered about the source of his self-assuredness. After a brief moment, Xiao Xian smiled and said, Old Master Zhao, I am here upon someone's request, and I have a matter of great significance to discuss with you. It pertains to that person's private life, so I implore you, Old Master Zhao, to remove any irrelevant individuals from our conversation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1265. Angry Zhao Mu's eyes widened in surprise, caught off guard by Xiao Xian's unexpected revelation. He couldn't fathom what Xiao Xian was alluding to, and so he decided to remain patient and let her elaborate. Madame Xiao, you have me intrigued, he responded, his curiosity piqued. I may not fully comprehend your intentions, but I am willing to listen to what you have to say. With a subtle smile, Zhao Mu gestured to the servants to exit the room, leaving only the housekeeper behind to ensure their privacy. Xiao Xian paused briefly before addressing him directly. Old Master Zhao, young Master Zhao has entrusted me with a delicate matter concerning Madame Zheng and Old Master Zhao's potential divorce. Zhao Mu's initial reaction was one of disbelief, and his face turned crimson with a mixture of anger and humiliation. The fact that an outsider like Xiao Xian was privy to such a sensitive family matter implied that his own son had divulged everything about their family affairs, intensifying his sense of shame. Madame Xiao, this is going too far. Zhao Mu exclaimed, his voice shaking with indignation. This is a matter concerning my family, and you have no right to interfere. Even my unfilial son should not have disclosed this. I had thought you to be a reasonable person. Am I wrong? Qiao Xian responded with a light chuckle, trying to maintain her composure. Old Master Zhao, please don't be upset, and allow me to clarify my position. I pride myself on being a reasonable individual. Zhao Mu sneered inwardly, thinking, I won't back down. I'm not afraid of you. He then looked at Qiao Xian with a challenging expression. Qiao Xian continued with a calm demeanor, Old Master Zhao, let's discuss reason. As she spoke, Qiao Xian placed 2 IOU notes in front of Zhao Mu. He stared at them in shock, his eyes widening. What is the meaning of this? How did you come into possession of these IOUs? Qiao Xian maintained her composed smile but didn't offer an explanation. Gritting his teeth, Zhao Mu concluded, it must have been Zhao Shu. That ungrateful son must have given them to you. Qiao Xian replied gently, Old Master Zhao, let us refrain from such labels. Young Master Zhao is no longer part of the family, and you no longer have any paternal rights over him. Calling him ungrateful seems inappropriate when he is no longer your son. Zhao Mu was left speechless, grappling with the weight of Qiao Xian's words. Zhao Mu shot an intense glare at Qiao Xian, now fully aware that dealing with Madame Xiao was not going to be a straightforward task. Madame Xiao, he began, attempting to salvage the situation, perhaps it would be wise for us to maintain some semblance of mutual respect, considering our potential future interactions. Your silk business aligns with our workshop's interests, as we are the largest in Hangzhou. Cooperation could be mutually beneficial. What are your thoughts on this, Madame Xiao? Qiao Xian responded with a serene smile. Indeed, I have no immediate concerns about selling silk. Hangzhou can serve as a hub for distribution to other regions. If I don't sell all my goods this year, there's no harm in carrying them over to the next. My financial gains remain secure. Isn't that right, Old Master Zhao? However, Zhao Mu couldn't ignore the stark reality that shutting down their workshop for an entire year was simply unfeasible. Doing so would jeopardize the Zhao family's standing as the wealthiest entity in Hangzhou. Although he seethed with anger, Zhao Mu was cognizant of the fact that he had limited options when dealing with Qiao Xian. She was, frustratingly, making a valid point. What is your proposition? He finally inquired, his voice strained. I've been approached by young Master Zhao to facilitate a divorce on behalf of his mother. If Old Master Zhao were to provide me with the necessary divorce documents, wouldn't everyone stand to benefit? Qiao Xian suggested. Zhao Mu considered her proposal carefully before responding, his patience wearing thin. Silk, is that your only condition? I assure you we can meet your silk supply needs and offer them at market prices. Qiao Xian's tone grated on his nerves, but Zhao Mu had no choice but to continue the negotiations. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1266, IOUs, yeah, Qiao Xian responded, seemingly unaware of any issues with her statement. She maintained a pleasant smile as she continued, your workshop is exceptionally spacious, and a minor price adjustment could potentially result in significant losses for you, correct? Are you dissatisfied with the prevailing market rates? Naturally, you can explore other suppliers, but finding an alternative source for such quantities might prove challenging. Moreover, resorting to coercive means to obtain silk would only drive up prices, costing you even more in the long run, which hardly seems worthwhile. Zhao Mu remained silent, unable to formulate a retort. He begrudgingly acknowledged the validity of Qiao Xian's argument, though he remained far from convinced. As for those IOUs, Qiao Xian shifted the conversation back to the matter at hand. There are 10 in total, correct? I now hold possession of these IOUs, and I propose a fair arrangement. I'll offer you the market price for the silk plus half the value of those IOUs in exchange for Madame Zheng's divorce papers. Old Master Zhao, do you find this to be an equitable proposition? Zhao Mu couldn't help but rue his earlier decision to decline his father-in-law's offer and sign those IOUs. Little had he known that Ms.Qin had diligently collected them and handed them over to Zhao Shu, their ungrateful son. Zhao Shu's betrayal stung him deeply. How could he allow outsiders to meddle in their family affairs? Zhao Mu firmly believed that labeling his son as unfilial was entirely justified. Recalling that each of those 10 IOUs was worth 700,000 liang, the total sum amounted to a staggering 7 million liang. If Madame Qiao were to demand repayment, it would undoubtedly spell disaster for the Zhao family, a situation he couldn't bear to contemplate. He was determined to reclaim those IOUs at any cost, lest Madame Qiao and their disobedient son wreak havoc at any given moment, a scenario he found unacceptable. Just as Zhao Mu was about to voice his concerns, Qiao Xian swiftly interjected, "Old Master Zhao, I prefer straightforward dealings and dislike haggling. I've made what I consider to be a very sincere offer. If it doesn't meet your expectations, I won't press the matter further." Reluctantly, Zhao Mu held back the words he had been poised to speak. Although they had only just met, Zhao Mu could already discern the young madame's resolute temperament. If she made such a statement, she seemed entirely capable of following through with her intentions. What worried him most was that he couldn't afford to take such a gamble. With 7 million liang in IOUs and the prospect of obtaining a divorce paper in exchange for half that amount, 3,500,000 liang, it was undoubtedly an attractive deal. Madame Qiao had displayed a remarkable level of sincerity. However, Zhao Mu had never accepted the burden of this 7 million liang debt. To him, it was a trifling sum, and even being required to pay 10,000 liang would have been a humiliating ordeal. They should never have offered the money in the first place, but it was too late for regrets now. Yet, what alternative did he have? Zhao Mu wrestled with his inner turmoil. While Qiao Xian calmly sipped her tea, butler Zhao stood there in a state of bewilderment. Eventually, Zhao Mu gave in, his voice resigned. "All right, I will provide you with the 5 million liang, the divorce paper, and the IOUs. Old Master Zhao, you are indeed a straightforward individual. It's no wonder you've been able to amass such wealth. In that case, I'll give you 2 days to prepare, and after that, we'll settle the transaction." Qiao Xian agreed, her demeanor still composed. Inwardly cursing his predicament, Zhao Mu forced a smile and replied, "Very well, but I may not have that much money readily available. Could I offer something else as collateral?" Qiao Xian nodded graciously, "Of course, as long as the collateral holds an equivalent value." Agreed. With that, Qiao Xian rose from her seat and offered a parting smile. "All right, Old Master Zhao, you can make your preparations. I won't take up any more of your time. Goodbye." Through gritted teeth, Zhao Mu replied, "Thank you, Madame Qiao. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1267, Money, Please, Master Zhao, Qiao Xian said. With a nod and a gentle smile, Qiao Xian departed with her entourage. In a fit of rage, Zhao Mu snatched the teacup beside him and hurled it to the ground. "How dare you! How dare you! How dare you!" Butler Zhao hung his head, wishing he could vanish into thin air. Old Master had incurred a substantial loss this time, and his fury was unsurprising. Yet, deep down, he knew that had he not disappointed Madame, matters might not have taken such a turn. It was a matter of cause and effect. Breathing heavily, Zhao Mu turned his displeased gaze toward Butler Zhao. Butler Zhao quivered, managing a strained smile. "Master, examine the accounts and determine how much can be salvaged. Inspect the estate and assess the stockpile for valuable items." Butler Zhao's heart ached for Old Master. "Certainly, Master." They were about to distribute a considerable amount. Terrified of becoming the target of Old Master's ire, Butler Zhao hurriedly made his exit. Zhao Mu vented his frustration for a moment before letting out a sigh of relief. He then slowly retraced his steps to the study. He needed to contemplate his future course of action. He firmly believed that without the Jing family, he wouldn't have risen to prominence. The Zhao family's success had been solely due to his capabilities, nothing else. As for Zhao Shu and Madame Xiao, they would soon face his wrath. No one could subject Zhao Mu to such suffering. The Zhao family could afford 3.5 million liang. The Zhao family was undeniably prosperous. In a mere half-day, Butler Zhao delivered the news that their account held a substantial 800,000 liang. Additionally, they possessed 2 well-endowed fields in the southern part of the city, spanning 20,000 mu and 6,000 mu respectively. In Hangzhou, prime fields commanded a rate of 13 taels of silver per mu. When combined with the abbeys and laborers, the 26,000 mu holdings amounted to a staggering 400,000 liang. Though the Zhao family owned a few more fields, they were undoubtedly being retained. The storage room harbored an abundance of valuable assets. Given that they had already invested 400,000 liang in acquiring an exquisite jade cabbage, they could potentially procure an additional 500,000 liang. Not to mention a towering pair of red coral pieces valued at approximately 400,000 liang. Furthermore, there was a complete set of Yuezhing tea sets, a pair of suet white jade bottles, a crystal screen, a box of southern pearls each the size of a longan, and much more. In addition to this, old Master Zhao had 100,000 liang worth of gold tucked away in the cellar. Collectively, these resources made it far from challenging for the Zhao family to amass the required 3.5 million. However, as he contemplated this extensive list, old Master Zhao couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. These treasures had been accumulated over 2 or 3 generations of the family, with particular attention given to items purchased in the past decade. Each piece had been meticulously chosen for its quality. The idea of parting with them all at once was undeniably heartbreaking. Yet, old Master Zhao momentarily lost sight of the fact that these valuable possessions shouldn't have been his to begin with. The Jing family's funds rightfully belonged to the Jing family, and he had benefited from them without restraint. Now, it was merely a matter of returning a portion. Zhao Shu had not taken undue advantage of him. Both Zhao Yu and Zhao Yi were well aware of Zhao Mu's actions within the household. Even Zhao Yi, known for his pretense, couldn't conceal his discomfort upon learning that his father was expected to provide such a staggering sum. The same sentiment was amplified in Zhao Zhai. That's exorbitant. That scoundrel has crossed the line, Dad. 3.5 million liang is no small sum. Many families in Yangzhou have less than that. Is he not afraid of overreaching? Doesn't he realize he might choke on his greed? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1268, Forget it, we can't let him off so easily. Zhao Yi exclaimed. Dad, that's too much. 3,500,000 liang is not a small amount, and we need time to deal with it, right? How can we ask for so much all at once? Zhao Mu's heart skipped a beat. His second son was right. This way, they could carefully strategize and delay as much as possible. Handling this matter slowly would be more prudent in the long run. They could stretch it out over 8 or 10 years, and it would yield better results. However, when he thought of Madame Xiao, who was always soft-spoken and wore a perpetual smile, Zhao Mu couldn't help but feel uncertain. This woman was an enigma. Zhao Yi suggested, Dad, what if I consult with our strategist about this? Zhao Mu agreed, that's a good idea. Go ahead. Okay, wait for my good news. Zhao Zhai, who was seeking help from others, sneered, we've suffered a significant loss in this lawsuit, and the official can't afford to offend them. Let's not waste our efforts. He resented Zhao Shu for prioritizing his own family, but seeing how determined Zhao Yi was made him sneer. However, his constant opposition to his father, Zhao Mu, always infuriated him. It was no different this time. Zhao Mu was already quite frustrated. His second son was actively contributing to the family's cause, while their eldest son not only remained unhelpful but also made sarcastic remarks. Zhao Mu shot him an angry glare and snapped, just be quiet. Your brother is working for the family's benefit, and what about you? You're not contributing anything but rudeness. Leave right now. Frustrated and furious, Zhao Zhai was expelled from his father's study. He lingered outside the closed door for a while before departing in anger. Why hadn't he been able to offer any assistance? He had been keeping an eye on family matters, but his injured leg made it inconvenient for him to contribute. Zhao Yi returned shortly after, wearing a dejected expression. It was evident that their initial efforts had not gone well. The strategist didn't provide a direct answer but rather remarked, "There are established rules for everything. We can simply adhere to these rules and spare ourselves unnecessary trouble, don't you think?" What he didn't disclose to his father was that he had paid the strategist 100 liang just to extract these words. The strategist's intentions seemed increasingly dubious. Zhao Mu remained silent for an extended period. The following day, Qiao Xian was given properties valued at 3.5 million yuan, along with divorce papers for Ms.Qin. Qiao Xian had someone assess the value and handed over 10 IOU notes. The 3.5 million yuan included 26,000 mu of farmland and 53,000 mu of mountainous terrain, amounting to 550,000 liang in total. There was also 550,000 liang in cash. The two mansions were situated in prime areas of Hangzhou, one spanning 12 mu and the other 16 mu, with a combined value of 400,000 liang. The remaining balance was compensated with various valuable antiques. In any case, the settlement was even. Seeing such a substantial sum being taken away, Zhao Mu felt a profound sense of loss, as though a part of his heart had been hollowed out. His expression darkened. Qiao Xian smiled and remarked, "Old Master Zhao, you should be content. The original sum was supposed to be 7 million liang, but it has been halved. You haven't suffered any loss at all. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1269. Content. You should be grateful that young Master Zhao is such a devoted son. He willingly exchanged 3.5 million liang for his mother's freedom, showing his dedication to the Zhao family. Zhao Mu's expression darkened even further. His son's actions had betrayed him terribly. How could this be considered an act of filial piety? Holding the divorce paper, Zhao Shu's eyes welled up with tears, and even Uncle Qing let out a sigh. "That's wonderful." Zhao Shu carefully put away the divorce paper, forcing a smile. "We are no longer connected to Zhao Mu. Madam Xiao, thank you immensely for your help." With a bow, Zhao Shu expressed his gratitude. Qiao Xian, aware of his discomfort, smiled warmly. "Young Master Zhao, there's no need for such formality. We are business partners, and it's only right to support each other." "Madam Xiao, you're truly forthright." Zhao Shu smiled as he presented her with gifts. "Please don't mention it, Madam Xiao. I'm not taking your assistance lightly. Without Officer Xiao's guidance and Madam Xiao's support, I wouldn't have achieved anything." The gifts were substantial, and after discussing it with Xiao Yunduan, Qiao Xian decided not to return them. Although they were generous, they were not too burdensome for Zhao Shu. 300,000 liang, 26,000 mu in 2 days, and 12 mu of land. Qiao Xian planned to head south every year when Zhao Shu began developing the floral fields in Hangzhou. Qiao Xian handed 300,000 liang to Xiao Yunduan along with 1,000 taels, advising him to use it wisely. In return, Xiao Yunduan gave Sun Qian and Sun by a letter to be delivered secretly to the Crown Prince. As trusted confidants of the Crown Prince with their own discreet channels, Xiao Yunduan had no worries about their ability to deliver the message. With a smile, Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian shared a sigh. It was no wonder that the southern business families enjoyed such luxurious lives. They were incredibly wealthy. Look at Zhao Mu. He managed to amass a few million in a single night. Qiao Xian made some calculations and realized she had nearly 500,000 liang but not many properties. She appeared to be quite wealthy herself. Satisfied with her situation, Qiao Xian had been in Yangzhou for a few days and was planning to visit Zhao Shu's floral field in Hangzhou before returning to her home in Yuzhang Heshan County. Upon hearing Xiao Yunduan's words, they both prepared to leave. Their reunion, even after a brief separation, was a joyous one, and their bond was as strong as ever. They had cherished their time together immensely. Qiao couldn't stop gushing about the beauty of the southern flowers and willows. Xiao Yunduan, with a smile, nodded and held her close, reassuring her with affection. He had no intention of making his wife sad and was committed to maintaining his honor. The two of them spent a couple of days visiting 100,000 mu of mulberry gardens together. Qiao used her extraordinary abilities to ensure the mulberry leaves in the fields grew better that year, enabling the silkworms to thrive and produce more silk. The silk's quality was expected to be exceptional. In this way, she felt less guilty about receiving 40% of the profits. However, she knew that next year, her share would be reduced to 30%. This 30% would amount to approximately 300,000 liang, which she believed would suffice for any emergencies the crown prince might face. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1270. Hangzhou. 2 days had come and gone, and during that time, Qiao and Xiao Yunduan had spent an entire night together, reluctantly preparing to bid each other farewell. Qiao cherished the unique dynamic between herself and Xiao Yunduan. Despite their physical separation and individual pursuits, they found solace in supporting one another whenever they could. This approach, they believed, was the key to sustaining their relationship and allowing it to thrive in the long run. All she desired was to find comfort in herself, a solace that would enable her to lead a fulfilling life after their impending separation. In Hangzhou, there were numerous tasks that required her attention, including the relocation of Ms.Qin's grave, tending to the vast 100,000 mu of mulberry gardens, and establishing a tea plantation across 50,000 mu of land. Qiao had requested Zhao Shu not to accompany her to Hangzhou but to remain in Yangzhou with Uncle Qin, assisting in managing these two estates. She pondered the fact that Aunt Qin was in Hangzhou and considered traveling there with her. Zhao Shu contemplated this for a moment and, after careful consideration, decided against joining them. He understood the importance of avoiding any hint of impropriety. Officer Xiao was still stationed in Yangzhou, and it wouldn't be appropriate for him to keep Madame Xiao company. Despite the strong bond between Madame Xiao and Officer Xiao, the threat of baseless rumors loomed large. People tended to believe that where there was smoke, there was fire, and these rumors could be harmful without any basis in reality. It was an unexplainable situation, and Zhao Shu was relieved that he chose not to accompany them. Meanwhile, Xiao Yunduan was not just idly staying in Yangzhou. He had a demanding itinerary that required him to visit numerous cities in the south. So, once Qiao departed and their personal affairs were settled, he was ready to fully immerse himself in his work. Zhao Shu had been grappling with whether or not to report the management of the two estates and the mulberry garden to Officer Xiao. However, it became clear that Officer Xiao had little interest in these matters. They planned to share this information with Madame Xiao upon their reunion. With that, Zhao Shu went about attending to his own responsibilities. Meanwhile, there was entertainment to be had at the Zhao family's residence. The loss of such a significant sum of money had left Zhao Mu deeply unsettled. Both Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi kept their distance, fearful of provoking his anger. Zhao Mu couldn't help but contemplate meeting Qiao and finalizing the contract. He believed that some level of amicable rapport should exist between him and Madame Xiao, given the substantial wealth he was parting with. Madame Xiao had stated her commitment to paying the market price, and she appeared resolute in her decision. Yet, the urgency of signing the contract weighed on his mind. Once the workshop commenced operations, there would be no turning back. The ramifications of any delays were too significant to contemplate. This year, he might not succeed, but he planned to purchase fields for mulberry tree cultivation. In the following years, he would acquire silk, ensuring he was not as vulnerable as he currently felt. Zhao Mu set out to locate Madame Xiao, only to discover that she had departed Yangzhou. He wondered if and when she would return, though doubts lingered. The managerial responsibilities rested firmly in someone else's hands. Zhao Mu couldn't help but feel ignored by Madame Xiao, who hadn't spared him a moment's thought. She had entrusted the management of the vast 100,000 mu of mulberry fields to the manager. Chapter 1271. Manager Zhao Mu found himself heading towards the manager's office, not expecting what awaited him there. To his astonishment, the manager turned out to be none other than Uncle Qin. Shocked, Zhao Mu suddenly pieced together the puzzle and his emotions swirled into a turbulent mix of shock and anger. Qin, tell me the truth, was this Zhao Shu's scheme from the very beginning? Madame Xiao purchased mulberry fields, didn't she? He used her to deceive me, didn't he? It was inconceivable that someone could acquire such vast mulberry fields with a mere 2 million liang. It was a clever ruse, flipping the left hand with the right. I can't believe it. That scoundrel. How dare he play such a trick on me? He even had the audacity to pass the contract to someone else to trap me. As Zhao Mu seethed with anger, a wicked satisfaction washed over Uncle Qin. Zhao Mu, the wealthiest man in Hangzhou, and his young master had no allies, being both father and son. They stood no chance against Zhao Mu. Unexpectedly, together with Madame Xiao, they had managed to outmaneuver Zhao Mu and take a substantial bite out of his fortune. Master Zhao, you've got it all wrong. Madame Xiao did indeed purchase a portion of the mulberry garden. She hired me to handle the transaction. What's wrong with that? Master Zhao, you've never suffered a loss before. You're merely venting your frustration. Why let this anger consume you? Moreover, if word gets out, it won't reflect well on you. Both Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were discreet individuals. Qiao Xian's brief visit to Yangzhou had sent shockwaves through the local business community, but she had vanished without a trace. The business elite continued to speculate about her origins. Uncle Qin had no desire to bring up Qiao Xian again. Zhao Mu merely snorted in response. He realized that spreading the rumor would not bode well for him. If it got out, he would find it difficult to face anyone, especially when he inevitably failed at the 500 meters and his son fell victim to outsiders' tricks. Zhao Mu shot an intense glare at Uncle Qin, his heart aching with anger. He was so infuriated that he couldn't find words to express his frustration. The audacity of Uncle Qin, a mere servant, to flaunt his influence in front of him. Zhao Shu, that scoundrel, must have truly crossed a line. He had contemplated confronting Zhao Shu, but the mere thought of it made his blood boil. So, he opted to keep his silence. Despite his seething anger, he remained focused on the matter at hand. He had faced many grand challenges and storms in his life, and he couldn't afford to lose sight of his objectives. Observing Zhao Mu's rapid return to composure, Uncle Qin couldn't help but admire his ability to assess profit and loss. Madame Zheng simply couldn't match his business acumen. Uncle Qin made it clear that he wouldn't sign any contracts, reassuring Zhao Mu with a smile that Madame Xiao would undoubtedly uphold her promise. All he needed to do was be patient. When the silk hit the market, they would pay him the market price, without offering any discounts. Zhao Mu muttered under his breath, even Uncle Qin dared to challenge him. If it had been Madame Xiao, Zhao Mu might have been more diplomatic, but when dealing with Uncle Qin, niceties were out of the question. Zhao Mu sneered, very well, remember your words today. With that, he departed. The mulberry garden still rested in Zhao Shu's possession, and he needed to amass sufficient funds to purchase the silk. His ungrateful son would make no exceptions for him, that much was certain. Chapter 1272. Shock. Zhao Mu's heart ached once more as he reviewed the billing check. He knew he had to find a way to rectify this situation. So, he decided to approach Ms.Qin, who was currently under his restriction. However, Ms.Qin was not at all inclined to cooperate. She had been grounded this time, and she wanted nothing to do with the matter. Initially, she hadn't given it much thought. After all, she had been managing the mansion for many years and had her trusted confidants. She didn't dare to venture out herself, but she had assumed that her maids and aunties could go out and handle her son's affairs. Unfortunately, none of her plans had panned out. None of her servants could leave the premises, and they couldn't come up with any convincing excuses to do so. Furthermore, her son and daughter-in-law were nowhere to be found. Ms.Qin was growing increasingly anxious. However, her anxiety turned to joy when old master made an appearance. She felt a sense of pride, knowing that old master cared for her deeply. She couldn't help but wonder what the future held. She decided to make old master happy so she could broach the topic with him. Ms.Qin had always taken great care of herself, and her frail appearance seemed to attract the affection of men. She had a history of being mischievous, something Zhao Mu had once appreciated. But today, he was not in the mood for it. He gently pushed away Ms.Qin, who was trying to entice him with her charms. Instead, he pressed her about Ms. Zheng's dowry. "Where did you acquire everything?" he asked with a cold and suspicious gaze. Ms.Qin's heart sank at the sight of his demeanor. She stammered, "Old master, all right, there are no outsiders here, so there's no need to say this. Whatever transpired in the past, old master, I hold no grudges against you. It's all history now, just tell the truth." Ms.Qin felt a bitter resentment building within her. The truth? She had already spoken the truth at least 8 or 10 times, but no one had believed her. Unable to hold back her emotions, Ms.Qin burst into tears, covering her face as her sobs racked her body. However, Zhao Mu found no amusement in her tears. Instead, he grew increasingly irritated. "Ms.Qin, what's this pretense for? If you want speak the truth, don't force me to take action." Ms.Qin's crying only intensified. Old master had always treated her well, so why did he suddenly doubt her this time? Desperation overcame Ms.Qin, and she knelt before Zhao Mu, performing kowtows while swearing that she was not involved in any wrongdoing. How could she admit to taking something she had never touched? Zhao Mu initially suspected she was putting on an act, but something didn't quite add up. When Ms.Qin made the promise, she seemed sincere and honest. She had no reason to conceal the truth at that moment. As Zhao Mu probed for more details, his expression changed as he recalled Madame Xiao's schemes, and he nearly lost his temper. He had failed again. Ms. Zheng must have had a change of heart and taken her own dowries back. She had likely been slowly moving her belongings out of the mansion, hoping no one would notice. That bitch. Neither the mother nor the son could be trusted. "Old master, you finally believe me." "Old master, Zhao Shu is going too far. He's swindled so much money from you, we must reclaim it from him," Ms.Qin exclaimed. Zhao Mu let out a disdainful snort. Reclaim it? How could she recover what she had already given away? Chapter 1273, Petty Revenge compared to the sum of 3.5 million liang, a few 100,000 seemed inconsequential. It was beyond infuriating. Zhao Mu seethed with anger, almost unable to contain himself. He was a seasoned veteran in the business world with decades of experience, confident in his ability to navigate any situation and outwit any adversary. Yet, against all odds, he had fallen into the clutches of this mother-son duo. Fuming, Zhao Mu stormed out with an icy demeanor, his frustration simmering within him, nowhere to be released. Ms.Qin had lost her composure too. Once she gained her freedom, she stumbled upon the staggering compensation of 3,500,000 liang. Clutching her chest, she let out a heart-rending scream, the pain piercing her very soul. That money belonged to the Zhao family, to her son, and to herself. How could Zhao Shu arbitrarily appropriate such a significant sum? That wretched scoundrel has gone too far. He's absolutely insufferable. We can't let him off the hook so easily. Ms.Qin gritted her teeth and summoned her 2 sons for a conference. "I've heard he's still in Hangzhou. No matter what it takes, we must teach him a lesson and force him to return every last cent." Ms.Qin's rage intensified, particularly upon discovering that Uncle Qin was overseeing the vast mulberry fields. It only fueled her fury further, as she suspected Zhao Shu's involvement. Their losses had been monumental. Zhao Zhai shared in the anger. He sneered, "Who does that brat think he is? He won't need any tricks after I'm through with him. In fact, I'll give him a few extra lessons so he understands that not just anyone can trample over us." Zhao Zhai harbored no qualms about a confrontation in Yangzhou. Zhao Yi, on the other hand, remained silent, his thoughts laced with inner curses directed at Zhao Zhai for his impulsive nature. What would be the purpose of physically assaulting Zhao Shu? Could it guarantee the return of the money? However, it couldn't be denied that Zhao Shu deserved some sort of retribution. If elder brother intended to confront him physically, there would be no objections. Ms.Qin had always excelled at subtle manipulation, and she found a sense of satisfaction in these sentiments. Indeed, he needs a stern lesson. Seek out individuals who can keep their mouths shut. Don't worry about the expense, give them a thrashing and leave them incapacitated. But ensure they don't lose their lives. Humph, in Hangzhou, nobody will care about his well-being. Encouraged by his mother's support, Zhao Zhai wore a satisfied expression and nodded in agreement. Initially, Zhao Zhai had intended to carry out this plan with his trusted servants, but he bumped into his close friend, Brother Lin, who inquired about his intentions. Although Zhao Zhai had wanted to keep things hushed, Brother Lin's curiosity proved relentless, compelling him to spill the beans. He made it clear that the matter should remain confidential. Young Master Lin pondered for a moment, then grinned. Brother Zhao, merely beating him up is child's play, too simple. Didn't you mention that his loyal servants control the 100,000 mulberry fields? What if we were to set fire to them, he. Zhao Zhai's eyes gleamed with intrigue, and he responded with a smile. You're absolutely right. Why didn't I think of that, Brother Lin? You're a genius. Young Master Lin joined in the laughter. Plan it meticulously and watch them suffer. Absolutely. Zhao Zhai treated young Master Lin to a drink and set his plan in motion the following day. Since they no longer possessed the mulberry garden, if they couldn't have it, they were determined to ensure no one else could either. It seemed like a perfectly reasonable course of action. Chapter 1274. Fire. He could finally release the pent-up anger that had been festering in his heart, and the sensation was utterly satisfying. Zhao Zhai had always been known for his impulsivity and fiery temper. Thus, when the idea struck him, he couldn't contain his eagerness to put it into action. 2 days later, he arrived at Ms. Zheng's extensive mulberry garden, accompanied by more than 20 individuals. The sprawling 100,000 mu mulberry garden stretched as far as the eye could see, with the mulberry leaves just beginning to bud and flourish in the current season. Beneath the moonlight, the garden appeared as an endless expanse of green. Zhao Zhai swiftly organized his group into 6 teams, each tasked with bringing in various incendiary materials like oil, dried straw, flammable pine branches, and fire scythes from different directions. Once inside the garden, they lit the fires and discreetly made their escape. Their plan was to disperse and reconvene in different towns at dawn, avoiding any contact or communication in the meantime. In his quest to vent his anger, Zhao Zhai generously paid each participant 50 liang and added an extra 10 for the leader, totaling a substantial sum. This would be enough for these individuals to survive for at least half a month. Zhao Zhai had meticulously planned every detail, driven by a desire to witness the devastation of the mulberry garden that had once belonged to the Jing family, a property that Zhao Shu had a share in. Accompanied by 2 personal page boys, he had formed a small team for this mission. Upon entering the mulberry garden and inhaling the fragrant aroma of the tender mulberry leaves, Zhao Zhai couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. This place had never been his, and he believed it should rightfully belong to him. However, the thought of obliterating everything and the subsequent anguish that Zhao Shu would experience upon seeing the ruins the following day filled Zhao Zhai with a sense of perverse satisfaction. What Zhao Zhai hadn't anticipated, though, was that his loyal friend was no longer loyal. He had been swayed by external influences and had been surveilling Zhao Zhai for some time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been caught in such a fortuitous manner. Zhao Zhai was apprehended red-handed with the individuals he had bribed. Of course, to make the ruse appear convincing, some of them had already initiated the fire, though it had been swiftly extinguished. The guards responsible for safeguarding the mulberry garden acted without hesitation, resorting to violence against everyone present, which included Zhao Zhai and his servant. Subsequently, they bound them and dispatched the culprits to the governmental office. Fortunately, our boss is exceptionally cautious. She acquired the entire 100,000 mu of mulberry garden in a single purchase, and being an outsider, she anticipated potential jealousy from others. She worried that someone might engage in underhanded activities behind her back, so she issued orders for daily patrols, especially during the night. She has a preference for exploiting the cover of darkness and the late hours, one of the guards explained. For a while, nothing unusual occurred, and we started to think that perhaps our owner's caution was excessive. We even considered recommending to the manager that the night patrols should be discontinued if no incidents arose within a few days. After all, this level of vigilance can't be sustained indefinitely. However, it all changed last night. The housekeepers and servants present clenched their jaws and glared at the miserable bandits before them. Unbelievably malicious. Fortunately, they remained diligent in their patrols and refrained from any complacency. This vigilance paid off when they observed these individuals sneaking into the mulberry garden the previous night, prompting them to discreetly tail the intruders. Initially, they believed the intruders were merely harvesting leaves and mulberry trees. Little did they know that the intruders were about to set the trees ablaze. If the fire had taken hold, the entire mulberry garden would have been reduced to ashes, and the consequences would have been. Chapter 1275. Show just the mere contemplation of such actions sent shivers down their spines. How utterly immoral. The devastation of the 100,000 Mu mulberry garden would not only inflict colossal losses upon its owner but would also deprive countless families of their income and sustenance, plunging them into hardship. Moreover, the silk produced within this vast expanse of mulberry fields held significant economic importance. Its destruction would undoubtedly send shockwaves through the markets of Hangzhou and the entire Jiangnan region. The repercussions would be profound, leading to the closure of many small mills and the ruin of numerous livelihoods. Such actions were an egregious display of immorality. The official resolved to punish the culprits severely, making an example of them to deter any potential wrongdoers. The official himself was infuriated by these events. He also recognized that the destruction of the 100,000 Mu mulberry fields would inevitably disrupt the silk market, causing prices to soar. In such a scenario, as the magistrate, he would bear the blame, potentially damaging his political career. It was evident to anyone with common sense that burning mulberry fields was an act that should never be contemplated, no matter how intense the conflict. This incident stirred the official's anger further. Even if the mulberry garden manager chose not to file a complaint, he intended to take stern action against the perpetrators. These 20 or 30 wrongdoers would each receive 30 lashes and serve a 6-month imprisonment, while the leaders would be incarcerated for 3 years. The official was determined to uncover the mastermind behind this malicious act and ensure they faced severe consequences. Failure to do so would send the message that he was a mere figurehead in his jurisdiction, and such audacious actions would not be tolerated on his watch. He remained indifferent to the rivalries and personal disputes that often plagued the business world. As long as these conflicts didn't escalate into large-scale violence, cause harm, or result in loss of life, they simply didn't register on his radar. However, his own safety and the preservation of his career were non-negotiable. The prospect of being the subject of mockery among his peers in the governmental office if he failed to identify the wrongdoer weighed heavily on his mind. Surprisingly, the investigation proved straightforward, thanks to the fact that the culprit was conspicuously associated with a group of troublemakers. Old Master Zhao, when summoned to the governmental office, remained bewildered, unsure of the circumstances. He began to extend a polite greeting to the officer, but before he could complete it, the officer's tone took a sharp turn, filled with disdain. Old Master Zhao, your cunning knows no bounds. Are you trying to extort from me? How have I offended you? Old Master Zhao, let's have some transparency here. No more underhanded tactics, all right? Startled, Zhao Mu knelt down, a mixture of shock and confusion on his face. Officer, what on earth are you talking about? I'm utterly perplexed. Is there some grave misunderstanding? Could someone be scheming against me, framing me in your eyes? The thought of Zhao Shu crossed his mind. He couldn't imagine anyone else orchestrating such a setup against him. The officer scoffed and instructed his aide to narrate the situation to Old Master Zhao. As the details unfolded, Zhao Mu's heart sank, and a chilling realization dawned upon him. He attempted to defend himself, vehemently claiming his innocence, but the officer remained skeptical. After all, It was clear that Zhao Zhai wasn't solely responsible for the idea of burning 100,000 mu of mulberry fields. Such a drastic act wouldn't have been carried out without Zhao Mu's consent. However, Zhao Zhai had dared to take the plunge. Chapter 1276. Money. Those unaware remained undaunted. Prior to the incident, Zhao Zhai was brimming with motivation, determined to make a significant contribution. He firmly believed that his efforts could elevate the Zhao family's standing, potentially earning his father's newfound respect. From this moment onward, he anticipated his father's heightened regard for him. He was eager to make his mark, plotting to astonish his father with an unexpected surprise, a secret known to no one. Had he shared his intentions, Zhao Mu would undoubtedly have rebuked him harshly, dissuading him from pursuing such a preposterous and perilous notion. As Zhao Mu broke into a cold sweat, the official couldn't help but sneer upon hearing Grandmaster's words. You should count yourself fortunate that your plan failed. Otherwise, the Zhao family could have faced imprisonment. If I pardon you easily, they'll have no authority in the future. You'll pay a fine of 300,000 liang, publicly make amends to the Zhao family, and provide them with compensation of 100,000 liang. Are you in agreement? Zhao Mu trembled, his heart aching for the money. While he wasn't truly convinced, his timid son had been apprehended red-handed and had confessed. Objecting wouldn't change the outcome. I am completely in agreement, that's good to hear. With 400,000 liang, Zhao Mu left the government office in a daze. Their account was now depleted. With the need to purchase silk this year and their funds falling short, they had to part with valuable possessions and antique items. He had initially planned to set aside 100,000 liang in savings, intending to settle their accounts after selling the silk. That was usually how large business deals were done. When no one bought raw materials, the payment would be paid in one go. However, given recent events, winning the approval of the Zhao family might prove challenging. This disobedient son was the root cause of all these troubles. Zhao Mu returned home, his face drained of color, and directed his anger at Ms.Qin. Ms.Qin was taken aback, regretting her failure to ignite the mulberry garden. She implored Zhao Mu to secure their son's release from prison. Infuriated, Zhao Mu kicked Ms.Qin to the ground, pointing an accusatory finger at her. You're a disgrace. Listen to yourself. You're nothing but an ignorant, foolish woman. Desperation gnawed at Zhao Mu. What had he been thinking when it came to his concubines? How could he have been so blind as to trust this foolish woman? How had she managed to deceive him? Zhao Mu scoffed. Our disobedient son has cost me 400,000 liang, and you expect me to spend even more on him? Forget it. He's getting what he deserves. 400,000 liang? Ms.Qin gasped in disbelief. Refusing further conversation, Zhao Mu sneered and left. Zhao Yi helped Ms.Qin to her feet, sighed heavily, and recounted the entire story. Ms.Qin clutched her chest in despair. 400,000 liang. It was an exorbitant sum, and now it was gone, her son's hard-earned money. She felt utterly heartbroken. This is absolutely outrageous. Ms.Qin fumed. The old master is so greedy and biased. The mulberry garden is unharmed, so why must we compensate them such a colossal sum? Chapter 1277, Ms.Qin's anger. Furthermore, our family should not bear this burden alone. So many others have done the same, why weren't they held accountable? Zhai is an honest person, and he would never engage in such actions willingly. Those individuals must have coerced him into it, without a doubt. Zhai is the victim here. Those wrongdoers deserve punishment. Ms.Qin sobbed so intensely that it caused Zhao Yi a throbbing headache. He intended to clarify to Ms.Qin the gravity of the situation, emphasizing that anyone involved would face the wrath of the authorities, who would undoubtedly administer severe consequences. His foolish elder brother was the mastermind and had already confessed. He needed to face the consequences. The official was infuriated to the point of extracting a harsh penalty from them. If they weren't resented for this, they should consider themselves fortunate. How could they possibly complain about their fate? They must have a death wish. Throughout history, commoners never contested with government officials, especially those in positions of authority. That was an undeniable fact. However, when he observed his mother's pained and incensed expression, he realized that she remained ignorant of the situation. Even if he attempted to elucidate, she wouldn't comprehend. Consequently, he abandoned the idea of explaining. He earnestly cautioned her, "Mom, remember never to speak recklessly outside. It could lead to catastrophic consequences for the family. I'm dead serious about this, don't ever forget." He emphasized the gravity of the situation. Ms.Qin was taken aback but grew even more indignant. This is just too much. Her son was about to lose 400,000 liang once again. Oh my God, it was an astronomical sum. Yet, when Ms.Qin thought about her eldest son enduring his prison sentence, her heart ached. She instructed Zhao Yi to bring him home. Fortunately, she had some money saved, as she had managed the family's finances for years. Zhao Yi was reluctant to have Zhao Zhai return home, but Ms.Qin's determination was unwavering. He understood that she had idle time on her hands, and if he resisted, she would undoubtedly pester him endlessly. Moreover, he was bracing himself for his father's anger. Reluctantly, Zhao Yi departed. While strategist treated him kindly, she wasn't shy about asking him for money. Ultimately, they had to part with 10,000 liang to secure Zhao Zhai's release from prison. The moment Zhao Zhai returned, he faced a barrage of scolding from Zhao Mu. He felt overwhelmed and disheartened. Initially, he hadn't comprehended the gravity of the situation, believing that he had been unlucky to get caught in the act. However, as he listened to Zhao Ye's explanation, he turned pale and began to sweat profusely. Zhao Mu was exasperated. He was ordered to remain home, forbidden from venturing anywhere else or making any decisions independently, under the threat of punishment. He planned to personally deliver the money to the Qiao family and offer a personal apology. Zhao Zhai wasn't convinced, but he didn't dare to defy the orders. After an irate Zhao Mu stormed off, Zhao Yi inquired, "Weren't you planning to confront Zhao Shu and even considered burning the mulberry garden? Who influenced you to change your mind?" It was only at that moment that Zhao Zhai remembered his close acquaintance, and his expression darkened. Upon hearing this, Zhao Yi realized that the man with the surname Lin had manipulated the situation. Ms.Qin erupted into curses, determined to find someone to teach Lin a lesson, with him covering the compensation. Zhao Yi felt thoroughly exhausted and regretted involving Zhao Zhai in the matter. "Mom, we're already dealing with so much these days. Please rest and refrain from suggesting any more ideas. We have a long journey ahead of us, with plenty of opportunities in the future." Chapter 1278, Compensation. That's all she said, and it was elder brother who took the initiative. You can't just turn to him for help. He was on the verge of remarking that elder brother was a mature adult who should have discerned right from wrong. How could he blindly obey someone else's orders? Was he being naive? He had it coming for falling into a trap. But when he fell into a trap, the entire family suffered. 400,000 liang, along with the 10,000 liang from his mother, not to mention the apology, these thoughts were unbearable. His chest ached just thinking about it. Ms.Qin remained unconvinced and cursed vehemently. Yet, her outburst led to a scolding from the old master and a kick, which made her think twice about causing more trouble. Still, she continued to mutter, "Just wait and see." Zhao Zhai glanced at her and Zhao Yi, lowered his gaze, and remained silent. He couldn't blame Brother Lin. They had always had a good relationship, and he couldn't have known the consequences of his actions. Brother Lin had simply acted out of misguided kindness. How could he be held responsible? Little did he know that not long after, Brother Lin, along with his wife and children, joyfully relocated with a substantial sum of money to their hometown, Zhenjiang. Zhao Mu had only paid 300,000 liang to the authorities, and the 100,000 liang owed to the Qiao family fell short. He managed to pay only 20,000 liang, leaving Zhao Zhai responsible for the remaining 80,000 liang. Zheng Qing was beyond infuriating. He even sent someone to remind them to apologize to him. They couldn't delay this any longer. Zhao Di didn't have 80,000 liang. But he couldn't muster the courage to ask his father. His only option was to approach his mother. Upon hearing that he needed 80,000 liang, Ms.Qin began to tremble. That was a substantial sum. They are utterly wicked. 100,000 liang. It's like they're robbing us. What options do we have? Zhao Yi felt utterly drained. Mom, the Xiao family is far from honorable, and Zhao Shu and Jingqing are only making things worse. If we don't give them the money, they'll be thrilled to have an excuse to create trouble at the government office. And if that happens, the government official held a strong grudge against the Zhao family. It was his decision, and if the Zhao family refused to compensate or apologize, it would imply they rejected his ruling. Naturally, the official wouldn't appreciate that. Ms.Qin struggled for words as she cursed, "The Xiao family is despicable. And Zhao Shu, that scoundrel, conspired with the Xiao family and got his own father killed. He deserves divine retribution." Zhao Yi couldn't be bothered to correct his mother. Zhao Shu was no longer considered his father's son. Ms.Qin reluctantly had to produce the money. However, despite managing the family for several years, the finances in their shared savings were handled by the housekeeper and the accountant. Every 3 months, Zhao Mu would make adjustments. She could only withdraw a modest amount from the shared savings, typically just 10 or 20 liang, or occasionally 30 liang. Even if they managed to save some money during the new year, it would still amount to a maximum of 300 to 500 yuan at one time. She had only received 20,000 liang from Zhao Mu. They had already spent 10,000 liang to secure Zhao Zhai's release from prison, leaving them with just 10,000 liang. This was still a long way from the required 80,000 liang. She didn't dare to turn to the old master for help, so she had to consider selling their belongings. However, she had been stripped of her authority as housekeeper, so she couldn't access the items. She needed to come up with another solution. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1279, Shou. Fortunately, she had acquired many valuable possessions over the years, leaving her with no need to resort to pawning for money. Reluctant to part with her exquisite jewelry, she carefully selected a handful of porcelain bottles and jade ornaments, entrusting Zhao Zhai with the task of pawning them for much-needed funds. As she clutched these precious items, her frustration got the better of her, leading to another scolding directed at Zhao Shu. Accompanied by these valuable assets, Zhao Zhai headed to the local pawn shop. Regrettably, he shared the same unfortunate trait as Ms.Qin, a lack of knowledge regarding the true worth of his possessions. Unbeknownst to them, a single pair of porcelain vases alone could fetch a minimum of 50,000 liang, with the other pair worth 40,000 liang. The pawn shop's manager and staff possessed keen discernment. Not only could they assess the value of items, but they could also gauge the character of their clients. Their instincts immediately identified this young master as an inexperienced and perhaps naive individual, merely from his body language. These were all lucrative opportunities knocking at their door, and they had no intention of letting them slip by. Consequently, Zhao Zhai's possessions, which could have been valued at 180,000 liang or more, were appraised at a mere 80,000 liang. Once the necessary 100,000 liang had been collected, Zhao Zhai had no choice but to proceed to the mulberry garden to offer his apology, accompanied by butler Zhao. To his chagrin, Uncle Qin received him, intensifying Zhao Zhai's sense of humiliation as if Uncle Qin were a servant who had betrayed his master. However, Uncle Qin found this reaction comical, reminding Zhao Zhai that he belonged to the Jing family, not the Zhao family. Following a formal apology and payment of compensation, Zhao Zhai hastily departed, while Zhao Shu observed the unfolding drama with great interest. The Zhao family's lively affairs had cost them dearly, slicing away half of their holdings. If the silk trade did not perform well that year, their wealth would dwindle rapidly, potentially jeopardizing their standing as the wealthiest family in Hangzhou, and even leading to a financial collapse akin to a landslide. 2 days later, Zhao Shu approached Uncle Qin with a solemn request. None of the silk produced in Ms. Jing's mulberry garden would be sold to the Zhao family. Ms. Jing's suspicions about the Zhao family's malevolence were not unfounded. Why engage in business with those who sought to harm the mulberry garden? Zhao Mu, though seething with anger and resentment, refrained from publicly censuring Ms.Qin's abbey. His own reputation was at stake, after all. Instead, he chose to reprimand Zhao Zhai privately and began seeking alternative families to cultivate mulberries and rear silkworms. Zhao Mu disapproved of his wife and son's actions, having thrived in Hangzhou for many years thanks to the Jing family support, which had ultimately made him the wealthiest man in the city. Consequently, he had attracted envy from many quarters. Now, his fortunes were dwindling, and he found himself a target for others' ambitions. As a result, his plan to sign contracts and purchase silk faced considerable obstacles. Prices were artificially inflated, and sellers insisted on receiving the full amount up front, refusing to negotiate. Silk always found its buyers, and Zhao Mu, infuriated and frustrated, had no choice but to begrudgingly pay the full price. He resolved to prepare for the coming year when the mulberry fields would yield their harvest. However, this approach strained their cash flow, leaving the family with empty accounts and forcing them to sell some of their cherished possessions. With their cash flow disrupted, the Zhao family faced an ominous predicament. It was as though the mountains had crumbled and the earth had split beneath their feet. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1280. Silk. Zhao Shu stood on the sidelines, determined not to miss this opportunity. The fate of the Zhao family hung in the balance, and it seemed almost certain that their decline was imminent. As expected, when the silk began to flood the market, a significant number of families who had previously signed contracts with Zhao Mu had a change of heart. They preferred to pay double the deposit rather than sell their silk to him. This turn of events left Zhao Mu torn between anger and anxiety. A considerable number of families reneged on their commitments, with about 16 or 17 of them opting to pay the double deposit. Faced with this predicament, Zhao Mu found himself in a difficult position. Taking the matter to the authorities was an option, albeit a challenging one. The involvement of so many families complicated matters, and the magistrate was unlikely to favor Zhao Mu's case. Several days had already passed since the issue arose. Furthermore, if he dared to expose this situation, he risked alienating himself from potential future collaborators. This was a decision that required careful consideration from all parties involved. In light of these circumstances, Zhao Mu had no choice but to approach the manager of the weaving workshop and seek a supply of silk from Ms. Qin's mulberry garden. The frustration mounted as Ms. Qin's mulberry garden thrived this year. The leaves were fresh and abundant, the silkworms were plump and vigorous, producing copious amounts of silk. The resulting cocoons were flawless and snow-white, clearly of superior quality. Ms. Qin's mulberry garden was poised to yield 30% more silk than the previous year. After accounting for expenses, this would translate into an additional 200,000 liang, a substantial sum that rarely came by in a single year. Zhao Mu couldn't help but feel vexed by the situation. Ms.Qin's frustration deepened upon hearing the news. She couldn't help but think that the money rightfully belonged to her and her son. We've been tending to that mulberry garden for years, helping it thrive. The earnings should be ours, and we must reclaim what's rightfully ours. We can't allow them to take it without compensation, she asserted passionately. Zhao Yi found himself at a loss for words at times, considering his mother's insistence on such seemingly unreasonable ideas. After all, the mulberry garden already belonged to them, and this situation had nothing to do with outsiders. He couldn't hide his irritation, but what good would that do? His mother intended to approach the Zhao family to rectify the situation. Zhao Shu from Hangzhou, Yangzhou, and Huzhou agreed to sell the silk, but they insisted on a 30% price increase based on market rates. Furthermore, they refused to accept an advance payment, demanding the entire sum up front, or the deal was off. Zhao Mu's anger flared, and he resorted to harsh words, accusing them of bullying. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi shared their father's annoyance and joined in the verbal exchange, criticizing Zhao Shu for his apparent ingratitude. Zhao Yi expressed his determination to source silk from Hangzhou, Huzhou, and Suzhou, believing he could secure supplies from all three locations. Zhao Zhai also expressed his willingness to contribute to this effort. After some consideration, Zhao Mu concurred with their plan. They sold more assets, giving each son 100,000 liang to purchase silk from Su and Hu states. While Zhao Mu remained in Yangzhou to oversee the workshop, he needed to repurchase silk from the silkworm store promptly to keep production running smoothly. The urgency of the situation was clear. They had to act swiftly, or the silk supply would fall short, jeopardizing their ability to fulfill last year's orders. Failure to deliver on those orders would spell disaster for the Zhao family. Chapter 1281, Unthinkable. The workshop descended into chaos due to the severe lack of labor. Reassembling the workforce once they dispersed would prove to be a formidable challenge. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi faced substantial obstacles during their procurement efforts. The Su and Hu states were plagued by significant negative karma, and their annual demand for locally produced silk made it nearly impossible to sell any to outsiders. When foreign merchants arrived seeking to purchase a substantial quantity like 100,000 liang, equivalent to 125,000 kilograms, it left everyone perplexed. How on earth could they afford such an enormous amount? Their purchases of less than 5,000 kilograms immediately drew the ire of prominent local business figures entrenched in the negative karma industry. Furious at what they perceived as young Master Zhao's interference in the local market, they united to expel the newcomers. Zhao Yi displayed astute judgment. He offered some conciliatory words and left Suzhou with his modest 4,000 kilograms of silk. It was abundantly clear to him that lingering longer would not yield any further purchases. Local businessmen had made it explicitly clear that even if he stayed, he wouldn't be able to secure any additional silk. Silkworm households would not risk alienating the locals by selling to outsiders. Being able to safely transport 500 grams of silk back was already a minor victory in itself. In his mind, Zhao Yi was oversimplifying the entire ordeal. Their situation was dire, and there was no going back. In the Hu state, Zhao Zhai encountered a similar predicament. While he managed to acquire a larger quantity of silk than his counterpart, he too was eventually forced to leave after buying nearly 10,000 kilograms. Yet, Zhao Zhai's stubborn temperament meant he wouldn't accept being chased away so easily. If Ms.Qin had encountered a similar situation, she would have shared the same perspective as him, that she was investing in her business, not coercing anyone into buying or selling, and certainly not engaging in theft. So, why was she unable to make any purchases? In the end, during Zhao Zhai's attempt to make a purchase, he encountered troublemakers who assaulted him, concealing their identity with a sack over his head. Despite the ordeal, Zhao Zhai continued to vent his frustration during the 500-meter trek back to the hostel. He refused to back down, exclaiming, "You don't want me to buy? I want to buy. I'm not stealing, I'm openly purchasing. Why can't I make a purchase?" Undeterred, Zhao Zhai instructed his men to persist with their attempts to acquire silk and even suggested raising the price, believing no one would willingly part with their money. However, fate was not on their side. Not only did they fail to secure any silk, but they were also swindled out of over 50,000 liang. In the end, they hastily returned to Yangzhou. Zhao Mu was seething with frustration. While Zhao Yi didn't manage to obtain a significant amount of silk, he had expected as much. Buying such a substantial quantity of silk was no easy feat. The southern silk industry was highly developed, and silk remained in high demand across every city. Typically, there was only enough for local silk producers, making large-scale purchases a rarity. However, Zhao Zhai suffered a massive loss, losing more than 50,000 liang, despite acquiring over 5,000 kilograms of silk. This was a significant setback. Due to the scarcity of silk, the workshop would be forced to shut down within a matter of days. Consequently, they would either have to pay the workers without any production or resort to layoffs. The situation would only worsen if they couldn't meet their delivery deadlines. The Zhao family faced the impending loss of everything they had worked for. Under these dire circumstances, Zhao Mu had no choice but to visit Ms. Jing's mulberry garden. Chapter 1282. Bowing. Zhao Mu's anxiety intensified as he observed the workers busily moving goods in and out. He had no desire to engage in conversation with Uncle Qin, so he expressed his intention to meet Zhao Shu instead. Witnessing Zhao Mu clenching his teeth, Uncle Qin couldn't help but sneer inwardly, harboring a deep sense of disdain. Old Master Zhao had neglected his paternal responsibilities during his time as a father, so when he now sought assistance, he seemed unsure of how to proceed. Why did his young master wish to meet him? Who did he believe himself to be? Uncle Qing's arrogant attitude infuriated Zhao Mu, leaving him feeling utterly helpless. Despite the overwhelming frustration, he reluctantly compelled himself to engage with Uncle Qing. Uncle Qing maintained a composed demeanor, sporting a smile as he reiterated that the Zhao family would have to pay the full price for silk, an amount 30% higher than the market rate. He displayed indifference to whether Zhao Mu accepted the offer or not. After all, the silk produced in their own mulberry garden consistently sold out. If they failed to sell it in Yangzhou City, there would always be eager buyers in Xuan. Zhao Mu's anger boiled over, prompting him to depart with a stern countenance. Meanwhile, Zhao Shu watched the situation unfold with great satisfaction. Zhao Mu had given his best effort but ultimately failed. There was no way around it. They needed to address the issue with Ms.Qin's mulberry garden to resolve their problems once and for all. Upon tallying the precious items in his private savings, Zhao Mu found that fewer than 30 pieces remained. These were all exceptional goods, the result of 3 generations of the Zhao family's tireless efforts to acquire them, and they were valued at over 2 million liang. Zhao Mu was genuinely reluctant to go through with it. He was confident because he had initially intended to pass on this knowledge, and once it was sold, it would be exceedingly challenging to buy it back. The thought of parting with these treasures was not something he wanted to entertain. In the end, they decided to empty the warehouse and allocate 6,000 liang of gold to deliver these treasures to Ms.Qin's abbey in exchange for the needed silk. At this juncture, Zhao Mu had calculated that the Zhao family's wealth had diminished by nearly 2/3 in just 3 months. It was evident that the Zhao family's aspirations of becoming the wealthiest in Yangzhou were now a distant dream. Zhao Mu's shock was palpable, and his expression darkened. An ominous silence enveloped the mansion, with no one daring to utter a word for fear of incurring Old Master's wrath. As the boxes were carried away, Ms.Qin couldn't help but feel a painful ache in her heart. It was her money, her son's money. She seethed with anger at Zhao Shu's greed in seizing her son's properties. With the workshop matter resolved, Zhao Mu turned his attention to his impending second marriage. Despite his recent trials, he still had some savings left. Upon hearing the news of his forthcoming nuptials, many families expressed interest in him. Ms.Qin, overwhelmed by her concerns about money and property, had neglected this aspect. However, she realized that she couldn't intervene anymore. Her 2 sons were grown adults with their own families. If the new daughter-in-law wasn't capable, she might not gain a foothold in the family. Therefore, Zhao Mu decided to marry a capable woman. His new wife was 18 years old and managed to tie the knot before the 15th of August. She adeptly established her authority with her 2 sisters-in-law, recognizing Ms.Qin's long-standing service and the fact that she had 2 grown-up sons, giving them due respect. However, as the mother-in-law, she insisted on setting rules for her daughter-in-law. Ms.Qin felt as though she had been slapped in the face, seething with annoyance at this turn of events. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1283. In the foot, Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi were growing increasingly frustrated with the situation. Ms.Qin's pitiful crying had become a common occurrence. However, the one responsible for these complaints was no longer Ms. Zheng, it was the new madam, who proved to be even more adept at it. What made matters worse was that she was younger than Ms. Zheng, making her appear even more endearing when she wept. Zhao Mu was well aware of Ms.Qin's intentions. As a result, his treatment of her had changed, and he was now favoring his new daughter-in-law. He believed that Ms.Qin, along with her 2 sons, were scheming to disgrace the new madam and undermine her position. With Zhao Mu's support, the new madam grew even more self-assured. She seized the opportunity to assert her dominance over Ms.Qin by claiming half of the nonchalant, casual, and indifferent furnishings from the storeroom. Apart from her monthly allowance, Ms.Qin was left with nothing. Ms.Qin's loyal aides were systematically removed from their positions. Ms.Qin found this situation intolerable. She had a few tricks up her sleeve, having served the Zhao family for many years. This ignited a fierce battle between her and Madame Zhao. As the conflict escalated to involve their respective sons and daughter-in-law, the Zhao mansion plunged further into chaos. Ms.Qin found herself at a loss for what to do. She resorted to devious and shameless tactics. When Madame Zhao's brother assumed the role of manager at the Zhao family, Ms.Qin feared that her own assets would be threatened by an outsider. Desperate to prove his incompetence, she even attempted to bribe someone to set fire to her brother's warehouse. Her plan backfired disastrously as the fire spiraled out of control, consuming several silk storage warehouses and half of the weaving workshop. Zhao Mu was on the brink of collapse. Word quickly spread throughout the town, heralding the imminent downfall of the Zhao family. The absence of silk threatened to inflict substantial financial losses upon them, jeopardizing their ability to fulfill their contractual obligations. Consequently, they found themselves compelled to offer compensation. With half of the workshop reduced to ruins, silk production ground to a halt. Fortunately, the incident occurred during the night when the workshop was empty, sparing any potential casualties. Ms.Qin was equally stunned, her limbs turning ice-cold as she remained motionless in her room. How had it come to this? She had merely sought to start a fire, never imagining that it would result in such extensive destruction. Zhao Mu awoke and promptly reported the incident to the authorities. Initially suspecting Zhao Shu's uncles as the culprits, he vowed to hold Zhao Shu accountable. However, as investigations progressed, they apprehended the arsonist, leading them to Ms.Qin and her associates. Ms.Qin, inexperienced in such matters, succumbed to the pressure and revealed the truth when questioned by the authorities. Unable to deny her involvement, Ms.Qin resorted to tears and complaints. She lamented her extensive contributions to the Zhao family and painted the new madam as the instigator of her troubles. Ms.Qin insisted that the heartlessness of the new madam had driven her to take drastic measures, claiming she had only intended to start a small fire. She even speculated that the new madam might have orchestrated the incident to frame her. Zhao Mu, Zhao Zhai, and Zhao Yi were infuriated, struggling to contain their anger. Though they had long recognized Ms.Qin's deceitful and malicious nature, they had not anticipated the extent to which she would go. As the truth emerged, the Zhao family prepared to offer full compensation. Zhao Shu, exasperated by the situation, decided to purchase the Zhao family's workshop, mansion, 6 stores, and 5,000 acres of prime land. His substantial wealth rendered financial concerns obsolete. Zhao Mu, disheartened and lacking the means to mount a comeback, lost the will to persevere. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1284, Investigation. They could no longer remain in Hangzhou. It had become nothing more than a jest. After liquidating all their assets, the entire family relocated to Changshu. There, they purchased over 1,000 mu of fertile land, erected a moderately sized home, and assumed the mantle of rural landlords. While they could lead a comfortable existence, it still paled in comparison to the modest country folk. However, for Zhao Mu and the Zhao family, the transition from being the wealthiest residents of the renowned Jiangnan city to the most affluent figures in the countryside was a significant transformation, known only to them. The Zhao family maintained a discreet departure from Yangzhou, yet news of their move reached Zhao Shu's ears. Zhao Shu awaited them approximately 20 miles outside the city limits. The Zhao family's countenances shifted as they were intercepted. Ms.Qin seethed with anger and sorrow. She had been left with nothing, as all her son's wealth had been stripped away by Zhao Shu. Even her standing before the old master had been reduced. She now wore plain attire, devoid of the splendid ornaments that once adorned her tresses. 2 unadorned silver hairpins were the only remnants of her former finery. Her makeup had lost its former elegance, and her complexion appeared lackluster and ashen. She appeared to have aged a decade in an instant. Though her heart brimmed with sadness and fury, she dared not voice her grievances openly. The old master berated her, contending that if she hadn't borne 2 sons, she would have been expelled. This filled her with profound sadness. She had never anticipated that, after only a few years of opulence, she would be relegated to obscurity. Upon sighting Zhao Shu, she let out a sharp cry. "What brings you here?" Zhao Mu's eyes gleamed. "You," Zhao Shu grinned. "Old Master Zhao, do not misconstrue my intentions. I am not here to bid you farewell. I have a query, and I've come to witness the spectacle." Zhao Mu's expression hardened, his anger palpable. Zhao Zhai, Zhao Yi, and Ms.Qin seethed with rage. Zhao Yi possessed sharp wit, but Zhao Zhai merely shot a withering glare at Zhao Shu, refraining from rebuke, an unexpected response that puzzled Zhao Shu. Internally, he sneered, seeing this man as more moneyed coward than a fiery-tempered individual. With the Zhao family's defeat, they were powerless to counter. Contempt surged within Zhao Shu. The prospects of a Zhao family resurgence, with these two brothers at the helm, appeared bleak. Approaching Ms.Qin's humble wagon, Zhao Shu lifted the curtain and coldly inquired of Dao's seeking, "Did my mother truly meet her end in an accident?" Ms.Qin's countenance shifted. "How is that any concern of mine?" A sneer curled on Zhao Shu's lips. Certain matters resist scrutiny. The more one ponders, the more they appear suspicious. It's in your best interest to steer clear. I won't forgive any interference. I'll investigate this thoroughly, no matter the cost. Ms.Qin quivered inwardly, her hands growing cold. Yet, she steeled herself, standing tall and turning her head away. With a final sneer, Zhao Shu departed without a backward glance at the Zhao family. Zhao Mu cast a fleeting glance at Ms.Qin's wagon and remained silent. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi also overheard Zhao Shu's words. Zhao Zhai cursed under his breath, deeming Zhao Shu's suspicions excessive. How could his mother muster the audacity for such a deed? Meanwhile, Zhao Yi harbored deep concerns. Chapter 1285. Back to Shaoding village. He was cunning, but he possessed a clear sense of purpose. The Zhao family stood no chance against Zhao Shu. Zhao Yi didn't even dare contemplate seeking vengeance. Should his mother truly have committed such an act, Zhao Shu's forgiveness seemed an unlikely outcome. Could the Zhao family compel Zhao Shu to address the matter? Later, Zhao Yi privately inquired of Ms.Qin, but she staunchly refused to confess. Her denials only fueled Zhao Yi's growing apprehension. Zhao Yi had always been self-centered, consumed by the fear that Zhao Shu would retaliate. In his paranoia, he pilfered the few valuable items left by Zhao Mu, absconded with over 2,000 liang from the household, and vanished with his wife and children. Zhao Mu's fury resulted in illness, further enfeebling him. Ms.Qin fretted over Zhao Shu's ominous countenance and chilling interrogations, haunted by the thought of his potential return. Nightmares plagued her, and tranquility remained elusive. Then, one fateful day, Zhao Shu appeared at their doorstep. Qiao Xian had no ties to Yangzhou and arrived in Hangzhou by late March. In Hangzhou, Ms. Zheng's loyal servants assisted Zhao Shu in managing his business, with Aunt Qing in attendance. Aunt Qing and Qiao Xian shared a familiar rapport, and Zhao Shu had sent her a letter requesting her gracious treatment. Aunt Qing, diligent as ever, ensured everything was well prepared. Qiao Xian explored the floral fields and Zhao Shu's tea plantation, both thriving with vitality. Perfume and tea processing workshops were under construction, along with housing for the workers. Once Qiao Xian delivered the tools, everything would fall into place. Amidst the expansive floral field, an array of flowers sprawled out: roses, jasmine, sweet osmanthus, lilies, and cloves. Each section was meticulously arranged, with extensive plantings of vanilla for various supplementary purposes. Zhao Shu had sourced these seedlings from a reliable place. They exhibited strength and well-balanced growth, all of exceptional quality. Their tender, green leaves held a captivating allure. In a few months' time, lilies, Chinese roses, jasmines, and roses would burst into full bloom. Sweet osmanthus trees abounded in Hangzhou, guaranteeing a ready supply of this fragrant blossom. Perfume production could commence in the latter half of the year. Initial output might be modest, but it offered the workers an excellent opportunity to hone their skills. Qiao Xian, after a thorough inspection, used her unique abilities to aid in the plant's growth, departing with a sense of satisfaction. Aunt Qing held a private admiration for Madame Xiao's unassuming diligence. Rather than merely putting on a show, she had ventured 500 meters to inspect the progress. Madame Xiao's humility was evident. She did not need to engage in such hands-on efforts. Her grounded nature was truly commendable. Young master had demonstrated exceptional judgment in pairing Officer Xiao and Madame Xiao for this endeavor. Their collaboration far surpassed that of the neighboring aristocrats. After spending 3 days in Hangzhou, Qiao Xian returned home with Sun Qian and Sun Bai, arriving back in Shaoding village on the 9th day of April. The first section of the Xiao family's household welcomed their return with great joy. Everything was progressing smoothly at home, and the entire village seemed to be thriving. Schools were already in session, with the sound of books filling the air, adding vibrancy to the community. The Xiao family's first section's business was expanding rapidly. Although they had acquired a few servants, they mainly hired villagers to work. The tea and floral fields required year-round attention, ensuring a continuous demand for labor. Chapter 1286. Displeased. Qiao Xian earning 25 to 35 yuan per day was considered a substantial income for the villagers. Even if 2 family members didn't work every day, they could still accumulate a significant amount of money by the end of the month. This increased income brought about changes in their lives, affecting their food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation. Some savvy individuals managed to save up capital and borrowed additional funds to start small businesses in town, while others purchased land to develop. As a result, every household enjoyed a much higher quality of life than before. They expressed their deep gratitude to the first section of the Xiao family for their transformative influence. Some even speculated that the Xiao family had amassed such wealth that they couldn't possibly spend it all, even refusing salary increases. Miss Feng paid no heed to these rumors, especially when she learned of someone trying to emulate her success. She believed that if others wished to follow suit, they should do it competently or hire skilled individuals from the village. That would surely make the villagers envious. Miss Feng didn't bother discussing these minor matters with Qiao Xian. Given his rare presence at home, she cherished their time together. Although she missed her son, Xiao Yunduan, Miss Feng decided not to visit the bustling capital at this time. Instead, she planned to wait until the following year. Yang Xiaoni was just 2 months into her pregnancy, and as a mother-in-law, she didn't want to leave home during this critical time. Her presence was necessary to oversee and manage the household affairs, which could be quite challenging. Upon hearing the news of Yang Xiaoni's pregnancy, Qiao Xian congratulated her with a smile and even gifted her a generous red envelope. Yang Xiaoni happily requested a piece of Xiao Yunduan's calligraphy and painting to hang in her room, intending to read it daily to impart some of fifth uncle's artistic talents to her child. Qiao Xian found herself caught between amusement and melancholy when she located Xiao Yunduan's fan for Yang Xiaoni, who was overjoyed by the gesture. Ms. Su couldn't help but regret not thinking of this when she was pregnant herself. She marveled at her third sister-in-law's knack for stirring up excitement. As a result, she requested some fans from Qiao Xian to adorn her son's room, with a particular focus on Junyan, who was attending school and could surely benefit from imbibing some of fifth uncle's talent. Qiao Xian shared the same sentiment, realizing the value of these items. However, Xiao Yunduan wasn't keen on parting with his other works so easily. After an extensive search, he eventually handed over a fan and a copy of the Analects. Ms. Su expressed her gratitude and carried these items away with great care, treating them as precious treasures. Qiao Xian couldn't help but wonder if she should request her husband to create more fans when they returned to the capital, considering their potential usefulness one day. What Qiao Xian didn't anticipate was Xiao Lulang approaching her, asking for Xiao Yunduan's revision materials and articles before the examination. Qiao Xian didn't mind helping out, but Xiao Lulang's tone and demeanor left her feeling uncomfortable, as if he were attempting to swallow his pride. It irked Qiao Xian. Eldest uncle appeared quite hopeful. Ms. Qiao, please find something for Lulang to assist him. It would be an honor for the Xiao family if Lulang succeeds, and the two brothers could support each other. This only intensified Xiao Xian's discomfort. she couldn't even muster a feigned smile in response. Chapter 1287, All Helping Each Other? Her father-in-law was still so naive. Ms. Fong remarked. Yunduan's belongings might have been taken to the capital. We can search for what we're missing, but let's not discuss it too openly. Qiao Xian smiled. Mom, you're absolutely right. Sixth cousin, you can head home now. I need to conduct a thorough search, and finding those items won't be a quick task. My husband has his own confidential matters, and even I can't interfere with them. I mustn't mishandle anything. Xiao Lulang, who had been suppressing his anger, could hardly contain himself after hearing Qiao Xian's words. With a displeased expression, he quipped, "Thank you, fifth cousin-in-law." Then, he departed. In private, Ms. Fong voiced her concerns to Qiao Xian. Lulang's behavior is becoming increasingly strange. Sometimes, I catch him eyeing our family as if we were adversaries. It's quite unsettling. I'm irritated by it. He's not as capable as Yunduan, and he failed to advance to the next level. Is that Yunduan's fault? Could it be that Yunduan's success threatens him or makes him feel inferior? Does he see Yunduan as a rival? He's so unreasonable, showing no interest in study at all. I wonder how much he's read. He's nothing more than a mediocre officer. Qiao Xian couldn't help but smile, acknowledging her mother-in-law's insight. Xiao Lulang was indeed not a commendable officer. Ms. Fong continued, Don't hand over Yunduan's possessions to him. He regards us as adversaries, so why should we assist him? Who does he think he is? We don't owe him anything. He came inquiring about Yunduan's belongings, and your naive father-in-law even tried to lead him into your room to retrieve them, but I stopped him. I explained that outsiders shouldn't casually access our sons and daughter-in-law's room, they should wait until they return. I put an end to it when I mentioned that you'd be back this spring. I thought that settled it, but here he is again. Qiao Xian's heart skipped a beat, and she inwardly shuddered. She added, Mom, you understand that he should never enter our room and take things. My husband holds an official position, and his writings, particularly his letters, shouldn't be handed over to outsiders, especially those with hidden agendas. It could lead to trouble. The source of this predicament lay in the power of words. As long as individuals had motives, finding something among someone's belongings wasn't a formidable task. Otherwise, why was the study always a restricted zone? They couldn't afford to be careless, as they were promptly and cautiously escorted out of the study, with concerns that their presence might lead to the drafting of articles. Qiao Xian had reservations about Xiao Lulang. Ms. Fong was equally taken aback. She clutched her chest and remarked, Indeed? That's quite fortunate. I don't trust him, Ms. Fong had a knack for this. She remained skeptical of anyone she didn't have faith in, regardless of what they claimed. Ms. Ma even lamented that the first branch of the family was wealthy and looked down upon them, dreading that her son might outshine Xiao Yunduan. Consequently, out of envy, Ms. Fong was reluctant to offer any assistance. Qiao Xian grinned. I'll just gather all of my husband's belongings and take them away. Ms. Fong concurred. That sounds like an excellent plan. Chapter 1288, Back to the capital. They systematically organized and stowed away all the belongings, a task that proved to be remarkably convenient. Xiao Yunduan refrained from inquiring about these affairs. His only concern was that she had safely stored them for easy retrieval when necessary. A full day was dedicated to the meticulous organization of Xiao Yunduan's possessions into sturdy boxes, with Qiao Xian, Li Xia, and Li Qiao overseeing the task. Xiao Lulang understood the need for respect in this matter. Xiao Yunduan's reputation had to be upheld. Qiao Xian selected a few pieces, no more than 3 or 4, for transcription. Tao Tao, Xiao Zhenyan, Sun Xian, and Sun Baiqi ventured into the field to reproduce them. Qiao Xian had no intention of providing Xiao Lulang with Xiao Yunduan's original work. This was all part of being well prepared. Regarding the quality of the transcriptions, Qiao Xian's primary concern was legibility. Aesthetics and neatness took a back seat. Xiao Lulang's countenance darkened upon receiving his portion. Qiao Xian maintained a gentle smile. Many of my husband's belongings have been transported to the capital. I've conducted a thorough search, and this is all I could find. Should you require anything else, please, cousin, feel free to convey your needs to him directly when he returns. Internally, Xiao Lulang sneered. He had plans to sit for the autumn examination next July and, if successful as a recommended candidate, the spring examination the following year. Xiao Yunduan wouldn't be returning to the capital during these 2 years. Qiao Xian was merely preserving appearances. However, he couldn't fault Xiao Xian for her actions. After all, she hailed from a Daoist family and couldn't possibly be knowledgeable about her husband's scholarly pursuits. It was ignorance on her part. Taking the items, Xiao Lulang put on a false smile. I'm deeply grateful, cousin and sister-in-law. I'll certainly remember your kindness. Qiao Xian felt a tinge of irritation. She wondered if he held some resentment towards her. Nonetheless, she smiled, trying to maintain harmony. You're too kind, cousin. A sinister smile crept across Xiao Lulang's face. Qiao Xian paid no heed to it. Neither she nor Xiao Yunduan feared the Tian family, the fourth prince, or Xiao Lulang. Qiao Xian lingered until the Dragon Boat Festival had come and gone. She completed all her tasks, leaving her with a sense of assurance. She didn't plan to return for the latter part of the year. Instead, she intended to revisit Jiangnan and return home next year. After departing from home, they spent an additional 3 days at the Yuezheng family in the province before making their way to the capital. By the time they arrived back in the capital, it was already late May. What Xiao Xian hadn't anticipated was Xiao Yunduan receiving news of their return and taking a day off to meet her at a teahouse pavilion over 500 meters away from town. Xiao Xian felt both surprised and delighted. In the wagon, the two of them couldn't resist hugging and kissing each other. Their time apart had made their reunion feel incredibly sweet, and they couldn't get enough of each other's affection. As the kiss ended, Xiao Xian turned soft, her breath quickening in Xiao Yunduan's arms. Her red, swollen lips, glistening eyes, and rosy cheeks made her appear irresistibly charming. Her languid, captivating demeanor prompted Xiao Yunduan to kiss her once more. The wagon continued its steady journey along the broad, flat road. Nestled in Xiao Yunduan's embrace, Qiao Xian beamed. Darling, what brings you here to meet me? Xiao Yunduan's long fingers caressed her hair, and he chuckled. I missed seeing you the last time you were here, so I took this opportunity to make amends. But most importantly, I missed you. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1289, Reunion. Xiao Xian flushed and felt so sweet inside her heart. She said shyly, Me too, what is it? The two of them exchanged a look and smiled. Qiao Xian chuckled as she buried her head in Xiao Yunduan's chest, complaining a little with her sweet voice. The two of them spent a lot of time together, and time passed very fast. They seemed to arrive at the house in the blink of an eye. Qiao Xian adjusted her clothes and hair, putting on a dignified look. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and took hold of her hands. We are home, let's get inside. Qiao Xian smiled and got off the wagon with him. Back at home in the capital, Sun Qian and Sun Bai bade them farewell and returned to the East Palace with their men. Qiao Xian said to Xiao Yunduan with a regretful smile. Sun Bai and Sun Qian are trained by the East Palace. They are capable, reliable and dutiful. How rare. The Crown Prince was one of the most influential people in the imperial family, and there were many aspects that no one could compare to. Ordinary families would not be able to train people like Sun Bai and Sun Qian unless they were lucky. Xiao Yunduan put his arms around her and smiled. It seems that they have saved you a lot of trouble. Crown Prince has many people who can be of use to you, and it doesn't matter if they are away from the Crown Prince. If there is a chance, I will ask Crown Prince to let them work for us in the future, okay? They were working for the Crown Prince anyway. Qiao Xian's eyes sparkled. Is that really okay? Will Crown Prince be displeased? Xiao Yunduan said, "No." Qiao Xian was very happy. "That is great, but you don't have to force yourself. It was not worth it to offend the crown prince." Xiao Yunduan smiled warmly and said, "No need to worry." During his service to the crown prince, Xiao Yunduan had never made any mistakes. Now, in the East Palace, he held a position that commanded respect from all. Perhaps it was due to Minister Old Yun's influence that the crown prince held him in such high regard. All he required were 2 loyal individuals to assist him, and the crown prince would not be concerned. However, Xiao Yunduan preferred not to dwell on this topic. They were back home now, and it was time to focus on their reunion. He changed the subject, gazing affectionately at Xiao Xian. His arms wrapped around her, and he leaned in to whisper softly, "My love." Xiao Xian's heart skipped a beat as she felt a tingling sensation spread throughout her body. She playfully nuzzled against him, her arms around his neck, and kissed him passionately. Xiao Yunduan eagerly reciprocated. His anticipation and desire grew with each passing moment. The room's temperature rose, enveloping them in an atmosphere of passion and intimacy. Unbeknownst to them, Lixia, who had been about to enter the room with tea, paused outside the door. Her cheeks flushed, and she discreetly withdrew. Xiao Yunduan only had 1 day off, with government office duties awaiting him the next day. Qiao Xian luxuriated in her late morning slumber, feeling completely at ease and lazy in the comfort of their home. She had no intention of leaving her bed. The previous evening, they had only emerged from their bath and enjoyed a late dinner when darkness had already fallen. Afterward, they had slept for hours, leaving them feeling delightfully languid and unwilling to stir from their intimate cocoon. But she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of contentment and fulfillment. Her cheeks flushed as she recalled the events of the previous night, her heart swelling with sweet memories. Qiao Xian finally rose from her slumber at lunchtime. After a refreshing bath and getting dressed, Lixia and Liqiao served lunch. Lixia also presented a platter of vibrant red strawberries, elegantly arranged on a white rhododendron-style fruit tray, creating a visually stunning and tempting display. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1290, Too Many Strawberries. Xiao Xian was pleasantly surprised, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the strawberries. "Oh, strawberries. Are these from our 20-mu garden?" Lixia smiled warmly in response. Old Master instructed Songsher to pick them. He mentioned they ripened a while ago. However, just before you returned, he had Songsher share some with our neighbors. Old Master believed you would enjoy them, so he had Songsher gather a few. Qiao Xian grinned in delight. "They're delicious, and I love them. Are there any left? You should wash them and have some too. Strawberries don't keep well and can go bad overnight." Thanks to her remarkable gardening skills, these strawberries thrived exceptionally. They were slightly larger than copper coins, almost as big as local eggs, and boasted a plump, bright red appearance. One bite released an enticing fragrance, sweetness, and juiciness. The subtle hint of sourness made them irresistibly delectable, and it was hard not to finish half a plate in one go. Strawberries not only tasted heavenly but also looked exquisite, making them a favorite among girls. Lixia and Liqiao quickly fetched another plate, and the 3 of them happily indulged in the delicious treat. Shortly after lunch, Xiao Yunduan returned home unexpectedly early. Qiao Xian beamed at him. "What brings you home so early today? I wouldn't have woken up sooner." Xiao Yunduan took her hand and led her into the room, teasingly replying, "That would have been a missed opportunity. I should have returned even earlier." Qiao Xian laughed merrily. As he sat down, Xiao Yunduan embraced her, his eyes filled with affection. "My superiors understood my situation, so they allowed me to come home half a day earlier." Qiao Xian nestled in his arms, a contented smile gracing her lips. It was evident that her husband was thriving in his role at the Ministry of Revenue. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly as Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian discussed family matters and enjoyed each other's company. After a few days of relaxation at home, Zhao Shu decided to visit their 20 mu of fields. Songshi proved to be highly dependable. He meticulously planted the 20 mu of fields according to the instructions Zhao Shu and Xiao Yunduan had given him before their departure. At this time of the year, the crops were thriving, painting a picturesque scene of lush greenery that delighted the eyes. Zhao Shu surveyed the fields and estimated that around 12 mu were dedicated to potatoes. When she had initially provided the potatoes from her own garden, she had brought out an abundant supply from her unique space, resulting in a sizable planting. Potatoes, unlike other crops, could be divided into multiple pieces for planting, hence the surplus. Additionally, there were over 4 mu of strawberries, their dark green leaves and vines contrasting beautifully with the bright red fruits. The strawberry plants were in full bloom, adorned with small white flowers, indicating a prolonged fruit-bearing season. A variety of vegetables had been carefully sown as well, including chili peppers, beans, eggplants, tomatoes, cucumbers, cabbages, ginger, scallions, garlic, coriander, radishes, and more. It was safe to say that there would be no shortage of vegetables this year. However, the abundance of strawberries took Zhao Shu by surprise. She hadn't anticipated such a bountiful harvest. Although strawberries were delicious, their household consisted of only 5 people, including the master and the servants, making it impossible to consume them all. Unfortunately, strawberries couldn't be stored, they had to be eaten on the same day they were picked, as they would spoil overnight. It was no wonder that Xiao Yunduan had instructed Songshi to share some with their neighbors. Yet, there was an art to gift giving. They should distribute them sporadically, 1 or 2 times now and then, so that everyone could enjoy a taste without coming to expect it regularly. If they constantly gave strawberries as gifts, people might grow accustomed to it, and if the presents were ever absent, it could lead to disappointment and complaints. What was the point of leaving such trouble behind? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1291, Visit from Zhao Shua's for Xiao Yunduan's colleagues at the East Palace. They couldn't easily reveal their intentions. If they were to disclose their plans, impartiality was imperative. They had to meticulously consider every facet and ensure no one was excluded. Otherwise, they risked earning the disdain of others, and someone might resort to clandestine mischief. Yet, when it came to sharing the food with friends and colleagues, one had to be discerning. Not every colleague warranted friendship. What if someone took advantage, claiming illness with stomachaches, vomiting, or even feigning poisoning? Such accusations would be hard to refute. They had no intention of reconciling with the Tian family and the 4th prince. Their actions at the Ministry of Revenue were merely a show. Unfortunately, there were no markets in the vicinity where they could sell their goods. Strawberries were a novelty in the capital, and there were no nearby vendors. Even if someone were willing to sell, there would be few takers. Zhao Shu was stumped for ideas. She shared her predicament with Li Xia and Li Qiao, saying, "Let's harvest them all and make strawberry jam at home. Pick the ripe ones." For the time being, she decided to keep as much as she could. She planned to find an excuse to return alone and store them all in her personal space. Li Xia and Li Qiao were astonished by the abundance of strawberries, wondering how they could possibly consume them all. Zhao Shu's suggestion brought a smile to their faces. They had brought along a large basket, which would come in handy for collecting the strawberries. Zhao Shu joined in the harvesting, but most of the strawberries found their way into her magical storage space. After half a day of work, the 3 of them had filled 2 large baskets and half of another one. They also gathered some fresh beans, chili peppers, eggplants, and cabbages before heading home. As Zhao Shu approached her own courtyard, she noticed a maid and a servant waiting in the shade. They disembarked from a wagon and greeted her warmly. It was Zhao Shu who sought an appointment. He wanted to discuss matters concerning the floral fields and mulberry garden the next day. Would that be convenient? Had Xiao Xian been a man, Zhao Shu could have spared himself the effort. They were business partners and shared a close bond, which would have allowed them to meet directly in the province. However, given that Xiao Xian was a married woman of similar age, caution was warranted. She could only receive visitors when Officer Qiao was at home. Officer Qiao had just taken a brief respite, so an immediate meeting wasn't possible. Qiao Xian pondered for a moment and then offered a solution with a smile. Kindly convey to your master that he is welcome to visit tomorrow evening. The maid nodded, her face lit up with gratitude, and then took her leave. Qiao Xian halted her for a moment and instructed Li Xia to provide the maid with half a basket of strawberries. These strawberries were grown in our field. They are exceptionally sweet and fresh, perfect for consumption after a thorough wash. Please, take them to your master. The maid expressed her gratitude, saying, I thank Madame Xiao on behalf of master. With a smile, Qiao Xian watched them depart. Upon returning home, after a hearty lunch, the three of them indulged in some plump and vibrant strawberries, washing the remaining ones to craft a batch of strawberry jam. The delectable aroma wafted through the air, enticing the senses. They managed to produce 2 jars of strawberry jam, one in a porcelain jar and the other in a glass container, utilizing the contents of half a basket of strawberries. Qiao Xian tasted a spoonful of it, finding it to be delightfully soft and sweet, perfect for pastry fillings. It seemed that they had nothing to worry about. Even if the strawberries couldn't be sold, they would undoubtedly prove useful. In the evening, when Xiao Yunduan returned, Qiao Xian informed him about Zhao Shu's scheduled visit the following day. Xiao Yunduan grinned, saying, "He'll return early tomorrow." Zhao Shu must have been keeping an eye on us and waiting patiently for a while. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1292, Prophet Qiao Xian's surprise was evident, and a smile graced her lips. Zhao Shu undoubtedly intended to discuss the events in the south with her. Being aware that he had just returned, he didn't want to rush into disturbing her husband. Instead, he instructed someone to convey his message. Whether it was part of his own strategy or a gentle nudge from Uncle Qing, Zhao Shu's willingness to engage in this conversation demonstrated his admirable character. Qiao Xian considered herself fortunate. Both the Yuezheng family and Zhao Shu were exceptional allies. The following afternoon, Qiao Xian commenced dinner preparations a half-hour earlier than her usual routine. They had arranged to dine with Xiao Yunduan and were anticipating Zhao Shu's arrival. Given the modest size of their family and the somewhat distant nature of Zhao Shu's relationship with them, they hadn't extended an invitation for him to dine at their home. Zhao Shu, understanding the protocol, arrived as the sun began its descent, making sure not to disrupt their meal. In the capital, nighttime curfews were enforced, so Zhao Shu would have to depart within 2 hours. After exchanging pleasantries, they swiftly turned their attention to business matters. Zhao Shu had brought along the account books and shared them with Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan. The flower field was thriving, with roses and jasmines blossoming in succession. The lilies had grown to the height of chopsticks, but it would take nearly 2 more months for them to bloom fully. The most commonly cultivated roses were predominantly in bud form, with a few sporadically in bloom. However, it would be next year before there were enough flowers. The perfume workshop was also completed according to the original plan. It had been constructed within the abbey with double layers of concealment to prevent easy detection. Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing had already recruited suitable workers who were in the process of signing contracts. Half of the required assembly workshop tools had already arrived, with the remainder expected shortly. Zhao Shu decided to oversee the final assembly the day after tomorrow, after which they could begin operations. Periodic visits to the mulberry garden in Hangzhou were also on their agenda. Qiao Xian offered some words of encouragement, expressing her confidence in the craftsmanship of the workshop. She knew that creating high-quality goods was the best skill achievable in this era, given the space interface's capabilities. As long as the workers recruited by Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing weren't lacking in intelligence, they would quickly grasp the required skills. Zhao Shu had complete faith in Qiao Xian's assessment. Xiao Yunduan, being an officer in the capital, wouldn't let her have free rein, and that assurance was sufficient for Zhao Shu. Moreover, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan had provided invaluable assistance in helping him break away from the Zhao family and return to the mulberry garden, allowing his mother to divorce him and establish the Zhao family anew. Qiao Xian had already documented all the necessary details for Zhao Shu, and all he needed to do was appoint reliable managers to oversee everything. Based on the current progress, they were on track to generate substantial profits in the second half of the year. A significant profit indeed, and she eagerly anticipated it. Speaking of the mulberry garden, Zhao Shu's happiness was palpable. There was nothing more satisfying than reclaiming something lost, especially when it came to Ms. Qin's mulberry garden, which held immense sentimental value for Zhao Shu. He joyfully shared that luck was on their side, as the mulberry leaves were growing exceptionally well that year. The leaves were plump, tender, and abundant, making it an ideal diet for the silkworms. Consequently, the silkworms had thrived, producing copious amounts of silk. This was the perfect time for the silkworms to spin their cocoons and yield silk, making it a highly productive harvest year. Zhao Shu was already prepared to utilize this to re-establish the Zhao family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1293, Tea House. What does it matter if the Zhao family is large? They can simply take a few more bites if they can't finish it all. Sooner or later, he would devour the Zhao family. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi were no match for him. Zhao Shu and Xiao Xian never anticipated that Ms.Qin would take such action. The Zhao family crumbled and vanished from Hangzhou before the year could come to a close. Xiao Xian clearly understood why the mulberry trees in Ms. Qin's garden were thriving so well and added with a smile, this made her even more confident about securing hundreds of thousands with a 20% share of the profits. Zhao Shu also briefly mentioned the 2 fields that Xiao Xian had entrusted him to oversee. The fields were easy to manage, and the overseer was dependable. Tenants would take good care of them, and the rent would be paid after the autumn harvest. The land in Jiangnan was fertile, and unless it suffered from drought or flood, the harvests were consistently good. It was a substantial amount of money. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhao Shu decided not to overstay his welcome and got up to leave. Officer Xiao would not be pleased if they lingered, especially considering that Madame Xiao had only returned a few days ago. Qiao Xian smiled and inquired, "What did you think of the strawberries we brought home yesterday?" Zhao Shu instinctively displayed a peculiar grin and nodded. "I've never tasted fruit like that before. They are incredibly sweet and delicious." "Thank you, Madame Xiao." Qiao Xian waved her hand and replied, "It's not a big deal. We've planted a few acres, and the strawberries can bloom and bear fruit for months. It's their peak season, and there are plenty of them. Tomorrow, I'll have 2 large baskets prepared for you so that Aunt Qing and the others can also savor them. Oh, and we can't let the strawberries sit for too long. They're at their best when picked fresh and won't taste the same the next day." Qiao Xian raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "Young Master Zhao, would you like more? We have so much of them at home, and you can have someone pick more if you'd like." "No," Zhao Shu replied with a smile. "What I was getting at is that these strawberries are not only beautiful and delicious but also incredibly convenient to eat. Many high-end tea houses serve fresh fruits, and I'm confident these strawberries would be a hit. If you find yourselves with excess, Madame Xiao, you could consider selling them to tea houses. These are fresh fruits rarely seen in the capital and could fetch a good price." He added, feeling a bit self-conscious, "I just mentioned it casually. If I'm mistaken, Madame Xiao and Officer Xiao, please don't take it to heart." While the strawberries were indeed fresh and rare, they were still small fruits and might not yield significant profits for Xiao Yinduan and Xiao Xian. Zhao Shu, coming from a business background, had been influenced by Qiao Xian's words and thought of this idea subconsciously. He was about to hold back when he realized something was amiss, but then he decided to share his thoughts. Little did he know that Xiao Xian didn't mind making money. Upon hearing Zhao Shu's suggestion, she smiled at Xiao Yunduan and asked, "Darling, what do you think? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1294, Not more land. Xiao Yunduan smiled warmly and nodded at his eager wife. We can't possibly consume that many strawberries ourselves. It's such a shame to let them go to waste in the fields. Zhao Shu, with a knowing grin, chimed in, I frequent Jinquan restaurant quite often. What if I speak to the manager tomorrow? Qiao Xian's eyes lit up with delight. That's a fantastic idea. Songsher can deliver a basket of strawberries to you tomorrow morning, and you can present them to the manager for his consideration. Zhao Shu readily agreed, and the very next morning, Songsher ventured into the vast 500-meter strawberry field to pick half a basket's worth of strawberries, which she promptly handed over to Zhao Shu. Accompanied by his companions, Zhao Shu made his way to Jinquan restaurant. This establishment was renowned as an upscale tea house located in the heart of the capital. Among its three counterparts in the city, Jinquan restaurant was Zhao Shu's preferred haunt, and his generosity had made him a cherished and distinguished guest there. Engaging the manager was a straightforward affair given Zhao Shu's reputation. After tasting a single strawberry, the manager's eyes gleamed with approval. He readily accepted Zhao Shu's proposal, stating that a single tea house could easily consume 500 to 600 kilograms of strawberries each day. Adding up the demand from all three tea houses, it amounted to almost 100 kilograms daily. They agreed on a price of 2 qian for every 500 grams, with a daily supply of 90 kilograms. This arrangement promised a daily profit of 36 liang, translating to over 1,000 liang each month. With Song's remarkable abilities, the strawberry harvest would continue until November, ensuring a steady supply in the foreseeable future. The potential earnings were staggering, amounting to thousands of liang within a few months. Moreover, as the strawberries continued to grow and could be planted every few days, the yield was only set to increase with time. This was an incredibly significant opportunity. The small plot of strawberry fields held the promise of a luxurious life for both Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan within the capital, though they knew the importance of keeping their newfound success a closely guarded secret. They couldn't afford to draw attention from Xiao Yunduan's colleagues, whose reactions would undoubtedly be complex and potentially troublesome. Qiao Xian couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride in the effectiveness of her superpower. When Xiao Yunduan first learned of their newfound prosperity, he was taken aback. He had always heard about the struggles of life and the difficulty of making money. Yet, it seemed effortless for his wife to accumulate wealth. With a confident smile, Qiao Xian expressed her desire for more land, realizing that the current 20 mu wouldn't suffice for their ambitious plans involving potatoes and strawberries. She eagerly encouraged Xiao Yunduan to inquire about available land beyond the town, even if it meant going as far as 70 or 80 miles from the capital. Xiao Yunduan nodded in agreement, taking note of her request. I'll start looking tomorrow. Finding a large piece of land won't be easy. Given his position as an officer in the Ministry of Revenue, Xiao Yunduan had access to valuable information. Within a few days, he managed to locate a suitable plot of land located over 1,000 mu away from the capital, in Cloudwater Town, roughly 40 miles away. Such a substantial piece of land was a rare find, even with Xiao Yunduan's resources. The following day, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan visited the site together. Situated at the base of a gentle mountain slope, the land offered a relatively flat terrain with small hills rising and falling only a meter or two in height. It comprised over 1,200 mu in total. According to the owner's calculations, the price was set at 124 liang per mu, totaling nearly 17,000 liang for the entire plot. Chapter 1295. Plan. Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian arrived with a substantial sum of money in their possession, enabling them to make an immediate purchase. The capital lay a mere 400 miles away, connected by a well-maintained, spacious road that could be traversed in under 2 hours by wagon. Despite their location being slightly off the official route, it remained within a 10-mile proximity. Their estimated arrival time was 2 hours and 15 minutes. The fields were meticulously maintained and ready for planting, sparing the province the effort of clearing land. Qiao Xian had already devised a plan for the upcoming year, intending to cultivate potatoes, watermelons, and cantaloupes. All 20 mu in the town were designated for strawberry cultivation. With over 10 mu dedicated to potatoes this year, they anticipated a bountiful harvest, with no concerns about seed availability for next year. They even considered expanding to hundreds of mu. Additionally, they planned to grow hundreds of mu of watermelons and cantaloupes, intending to sell them directly in the capital once ripe. Qiao Xian harbored no doubts about the marketability of their melons after planting. Although the landowner offered to introduce potential tenants, Qiao Xian declined the offer. She opted to recruit tenants herself, along with acquiring additional laborers. One of her plans involved setting aside a portion of land to construct houses for the tenants and servants. Detailed arrangements were made for the warehouse, tool room, materials yard, and other essential facilities. However, she decided not to oversee these tasks personally and delegated full responsibility to Songsher, who had been a loyal and diligent employee for an extended period. Songsher was ecstatic about the opportunity and expressed his gratitude to Qiao Xian. He assured her that he would perform excellently, determined to justify her trust in him. Qiao Xian found herself torn between laughter and tears as she urged him to rise from his excited kowtow. During the journey back home, Qiao Xian enthusiastically shared her plans for cultivating the 1,200 mu of land within the wagon's confines with Xiao Yunduan. He listened with a smile, fully supportive of her ideas. Xiao Yunduan was accustomed to his wife's fervor for farming, whether it involved vegetables, fields, or various crops. He never hesitated to encourage her in pursuing her agricultural interests. Songsher took his responsibilities with utmost seriousness. Not wanting to burden Qiao Xian, he sought advice from Zhao Shu's managers, displaying a fair and sensible approach. Impressed with Song's diligence, Qiao Xian granted him the autonomy he deserved. However, she also recognized that as Songsher assumed a managerial role in the future, he would need assistance at home, particularly with the demands of the fields. Qiao Xian discussed this matter with Xiao Yunduan, and together they enlisted the help of a 14 or 15-year-old page boy named Qingyan to assist with various tasks. What came as a surprise to Qiao Xian was the immense popularity of her strawberries at Jinquan restaurant. The manager of the restaurant personally approached her, expressing the desire to increase their daily strawberry supply to 150 kilograms, given the high demand. Jinquan restaurant even had a dedicated floor for female patrons, attracting a substantial female clientele. The strawberries proved to be a favorite among these women. When the ladies wished to purchase the strawberries for takeout, the restaurant couldn't refuse, as they also offered takeaway options for snacks, candied fruits, and tea leaves in their tea house. However, this surge in demand quickly exceeded the available supply of strawberries. Qiao Xian remained the sole provider of these sought-after berries. Word about the rarity and deliciousness of Qiao Xian's strawberries began to spread among the guests, fueling their desire to sample them. They were willing to pay 2 liang for every 500 grams of strawberries, highlighting their eagerness to savor this delectable treat. Chapter 1296, Buying. Of course, we've already reduced the price, and selling strawberries is a new venture for us. However, we do need to consider raising the price for Madame Xiao, Qiao Xian replied. Qiao Xian had no objections to this decision. Offering 2 qian for 500 grams of strawberries was already a generous price, especially given the novelty of the product. She hadn't anticipated just how popular they would become. However, for individuals like Zhao Shu, who had mentioned the strawberries to the tea house, and Xiao Yunduan, a prominent figure in the East Palace, the price of 2 qian for 500 grams seemed quite low. Given the rising demand for strawberries, it was only logical for the manager to contemplate increasing the price. Qiao Xian did some calculations, for mu of strawberries, producing 300 kilograms per day. Thanks to her extraordinary abilities, the yield had significantly improved, but 300 kilograms still exceeded the demand. In the end, they decided to supply 125 kilograms per day at a rate of 6 qian per 500 grams. Qiao Xian was content with offering strawberries at 10 qian per 500 grams, and she was already satisfied with the 6 qian price. This venture brought in 150 liang per day, totaling 4,000 liang each month. It appeared they had discovered another profitable avenue. As word of the strawberries spread, Qiao Xian couldn't fathom how the news had reached so many people. Various vendors and tea houses approached her, proposing higher prices for her strawberries. Qiao turned down these offers, stating that she intended to increase production next year. However, the rejections seemed to have the opposite effect. Different people started coming to her door the next day, and those who were initially declined returned on the following days. This frustrated Xiao to the point where she couldn't help but vent her frustration to Xiao Yunduan. After some thought, Xiao Yunduan proposed, "Tomorrow, I will visit the East Palace and offer some strawberries to the Crown Prince. I'll also inquire if they would like to cultivate them at the Imperial Plantation next year." Their intention was to dissuade unscrupulous individuals. The Xiao family had a strong connection with the East Palace, and it was essential to maintain a harmonious relationship without going overboard. And the strawberries should be prepared in case the Crown Prince expressed interest in trying them, so Xiao Yunduan could present them to him. In reality, Xiao Yunduan had a position within the East Palace, which deterred anyone from attempting any mischief. Otherwise, the rarity and high value of the strawberries might have tempted some to steal them, and Xiao wouldn't have been able to safeguard them. Xiao looked up at him with a smile. "Is that acceptable? Are you enjoying the food?" Xiao Yunduan chuckled as he gently ran his fingers through her hair. "No more gifts, just one large and juicy strawberry, weighing between 2.5 to 3 kilograms, would be sufficient. If the Crown Prince likes it, he can reward me with it in the future." However, Xiao Yunduan understood that the Crown Prince wouldn't allow any more gifts, even if he liked them. Moreover, there was the possibility of censorship intervening, and the Crown Prince wouldn't want any evidence left behind. Qiao hadn't anticipated this turn of events. Since her husband had given his approval, she smiled and agreed. It seemed that she was too accommodating, and it was time to teach those people a lesson. The following day, Qiao carefully selected a small basket of high-quality, large, and plump strawberries. Xiao Yunduan personally delivered them to the Crown Prince, who had returned to the East Palace early in the morning. The Crown Prince had never tasted strawberries before, but he had heard Xiao Yunduan describe them as such. He smiled and remarked, "So these are strawberries. They look exquisite. It's no wonder so many people are fond of them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1297, East Palace. Xiao Yunduan bowed gracefully, his smile radiant. These strawberries, a blend of festivity and exquisite taste, are at their prime season. I thought you might appreciate a sample of their freshness. The Crown Prince chuckled warmly. "Thank you, Officer Xiao." He savored 2 strawberries and nodded in approval. "Absolutely delicious." Xiao Yunduan offered, "If you enjoy them, I could provide more next time." The Crown Prince waved his hand with a genial smile. "No need for that. I simply wish to relish the flavor." Xiao Yunduan nodded, and their conversation shifted to court matters before he took his leave. Later, the Crown Prince instructed a eunuch to set aside a plate of strawberries for Princess Consort. However, she found herself in the company of her 3 adoring grandchildren, all equally captivated by the berries. Unable to resist their innocent charm, she took only a small bite and shared the rest with them. The children, mindful not to overindulge, requested the maids to send the remaining strawberries to their home. During dinner at the Crown Prince's residence, Princess Consort mentioned the strawberries, mentioning that Xiao Yunduan had provided them and that her grandchildren had grown fond of them. The Crown Prince, his brow furrowing slightly, offered a gentle reminder. "A single bite, my dear. What significance does it hold? The East Palace regularly supplies us with fresh fruits, isn't that sufficient? We must remember that countless individuals in the world struggle to obtain enough food and clothing, some even lacking the means for an extra piece of attire. We are born into the royal family, blessed with abundance in sustenance and attire. Let us not become entangled in the allure of excess." Though Princess Consort felt a pang of irritation, she conceded that the Crown Prince's words carried undeniable truth. Unbeknownst to her, countless watchful eyes observed the exchange. She had only asked for a single bite, with the best intentions, yet she was aware that the East Palace might exploit the situation, portraying them as insatiable and oblivious to the sufferings of their subjects. She couldn't help but think, one bite shouldn't cause such a stir. I stand corrected. Your Highness, please rest assured, I have gained clarity. I will refrain from any ill-considered actions, she assured. The Crown Prince let out a resigned sigh. It's crucial to comprehend that as the heir to the throne, my actions are bound by responsibility. Princess Consort nodded, offering a reassuring smile. Of course, I understand. Inwardly, she consoled herself, considering it a temporary inconvenience she could endure. After all, it had been many years already, hadn't it? She envisioned a brighter future where the Crown Prince ascended to the throne, and she became queen, able to have everything she desired. The thought provided solace, brightening her mood. She always found comfort in these thoughts. Xiao Yenduan's visit to the East Palace proved highly effective. Everyone now remembered he was the Crown Prince's favorite. However, this time, when he brought strawberries to the East Palace for the Crown Prince to sample, it was clear that impatience was building. It wouldn't take a genius to recognize the growing tension. Unbeknownst to Qiao, the merchants visiting her home were not ordinary vendors. Someone was undoubtedly pulling the strings behind them. Otherwise, they wouldn't possess such detailed information and audacity. Fortunately, her husband's presence provided some protection, making their intrusion less straightforward. Even though the East Palace didn't accept strawberry deliveries, Qiao instructed Xiao Yunduan to liaise with the East Palace manager. She proposed that the strawberry seedlings could be transplanted, trimming the leaves in winter while leaving the roots. Additional layers of straw could be added for insulation, ensuring a smooth passage through the winter. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1298, Working Alternatively, she could provide additional seedlings next spring. When the housekeeper of the East Palace relayed this information to the Princess Consort, an inner sense of joy filled her. She held the belief that Xiao Yunduan, at such a young age, had displayed remarkable capabilities and made significant contributions. However, the Princess Consort refrained from giving an immediate affirmative response. Instead, she decided to discuss it with the Crown Prince first. This approach was discreet and would avoid any potential gossip, wouldn't it? The Crown Prince nodded in agreement. He cherished his grandchildren's family deeply, but he found himself in a delicate position where even seemingly minor decisions could have significant ramifications. He needed to exercise caution. The Princess Consort praised Xiao Yenduan's thoughtfulness, and the Crown Prince couldn't help but smile in agreement. Indeed, Xiao Yunduan was a commendable individual. After receiving the manager's response, Qiao led Songsher, Qingyan, Li Qiao, and Li Xia to the fields, where they acquired more than 100 new seedlings, along with 100 mother plants. Qiao used her exceptional abilities to nurture them, ensuring their survival unless they were neglected for an extended period. Upon receiving the strawberry seeds, the East Palace manager planted them in the palace's back garden. Curious, the Princess Consort took her daughter-in-law and grandchildren to see the progress. The mother plants bore many ripe red strawberries, as well as some pinkish, half-ripened ones, nestled amidst the lush green leaves, creating an adorable sight. The imperial great-grandchildren had tasted these strawberries before and eagerly remembered their sweet and fragrant flavor. Their delight was evident as they feasted their eyes on the fruit. The Princess Consort instructed her servants to carefully pick the ripe strawberries and wash them, allowing both in-laws and grandchildren to enjoy their time in the garden, savoring the fresh strawberries and creating cherished memories. The Princess Consort couldn't help but shower Xiao Yunduan with silent praise. His intellect and thoughtfulness were truly remarkable. It was no surprise that even someone as arrogant as Tian Shanshan admired him. What set him apart was his fearlessness in the face of power, combined with his unwavering devotion to his original wife, a rarity indeed. However, it was somewhat regrettable. How splendid it would have been if such a talent were still unattached. The Princess Consort entertained the idea of being his matchmaker willingly. With some respite, Qiao could finally focus on household matters. Despite selling a substantial quantity of strawberries, they still had plenty for their own consumption. The garden's watermelons had ripened as well. They selected a few, brought them home, and sliced them open, revealing their delightful sweetness. As the weather grew hotter, Qiao preferred to stay indoors and avoid the scorching heat. Preparing delicious food at home brought her a sense of relaxation and contentment. One day, an aunt from the neighborhood, accompanied by her grandson, knocked on the door. She inquired if there were any more strawberries available, mentioning that Officer Xiao had given them some previously, and her children loved them. She hoped to treat the kids to more if possible. Qiao, with regret, asked Li Xia to offer some candied fruits to the neighbor's child, explaining that the strawberries had all been sold. She added, "We've even booked one tea house, and we're barely managing to keep enough for that." It was evident that these strawberries were considered a delicacy that many people had heard of. Qiao couldn't help but suspect that this neighbor was well aware of the strawberries' value, especially since she had offered them to the tea house as well. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1299, Peaceful. It didn't matter whether or not she was aware, she had made up her mind to tell the truth. Otherwise, there was a chance that people would come knocking on her door, urging her children to sample the fruits to avoid causing offense. How many times could she continue to afford this? Refusing might leave people dissatisfied. Why did she find herself in such a situation? Moreover, Qiao had no intention of breaking the habit of feigning ignorance about the strawberries' value. Aunt Xiao had not anticipated Qiao's lack of deference. She felt somewhat embarrassed and put off. However, when Qiao offered candied fruits to the child, who was joyfully munching away, Aunt Xiao couldn't press the issue further. She forced a smile and commented on how fortunate they must be to have made a fortune selling strawberries. It was truly enviable. Qiao had no interest in idle gossip and simply smiled without responding. Nevertheless, Aunt Xiao was known to be quite the chatterbox in the neighborhood. Undeterred, Aunt Xiao approached Qiao with a smile. "Madam Xiao, how much money did you make selling those strawberries?" Qiao remained silent, seemingly taken aback. It appeared that her close relationship with Xiao Yunduan had made her a subject of greater interest to their neighbors. A minor official like herself wouldn't typically face such inquiries. They had always kept a low profile, and the neighbors only knew that Xiao Yunduan had been promoted and enjoyed favor with the East Palace. However, Xiao Yunduan and Qiao had maintained their usual demeanor, leading everyone to overlook them. She had once thought that it was just a rumor, that the East Palace held her in high regard. But it seemed that was all it was, a rumor. The residents of the imperial city differed from those in smaller towns. They didn't fear officials, having encountered princes, kings, young scions of nobility, and monarchs' heirs on the streets. Their composure was evident. Otherwise, the aunt wouldn't have persistently inquired about strawberries and Qiao's earnings. "I don't make much, just enough for a modest living. I only need to make 2 sets of clothes a year." "Really? That seems too modest." "That's the truth." Observing Qiao's unwavering smile, the aunt realized she wouldn't glean any more information. She pursed her lips, muttered a few words, and departed with the child in tow. Later that afternoon, they encountered another aunt who mentioned that her son was searching for a better job. The whole family contemplated asking Qiao for a few kilograms of strawberries to present to the messenger, hoping to make a favorable impression. Fortunately, Qiao didn't offer any. Qiao was left bewildered. In reality, if the aunt had been straightforward and expressed a willingness to pay, Qiao might have sold her strawberries at a reasonable rate of 6 qian per 500 grams, perhaps even offering a discount. But she had no intention of providing freebies. Yet, these situations continued to arise. After dinner, Qiao recounted the day's events to Xiao Yunduan. He didn't know whether to laugh or sigh at his wife's predicament. She dealt with trivial matters daily at home, after all. After a bit of conversation, Xiao Yunduan contemplated and suggested, "Honey, what if we buy another house and move out?" Xiao Yunduan was the only government official in their vicinity, while the others were ordinary people entangled in various mundane matters. Such nuisances were inevitable. In another district where officials congregated, people were more mindful of preserving their privacy and exhibited better decorum. Chapter 1300, Princess Consort. Qiao Xian felt a slight sense of motivation, but the thought of dealing with Madame Lin and Madame Su made her abandon the idea. She smiled and shook her head, saying, "This place is the best option. I can manage it here. I believe it's unwise to relocate. Dealing with those officials can be even more troublesome. Their words are often veiled, and one must navigate their intentions through intricate twists and turns. A misstep could easily offend someone. It's truly vexing." Xiao Yunduan found her amusing and pulled her close for a kiss. "All right, as you wish. If you ever encounter any difficulties, remember to inform me. You needn't resort to being a bad person, I'll handle it." Being an officer, Xiao Yunduan had the authority that demanded respect. The residents of the imperial city were both knowledgeable and tactful, and they understood the nuances of diplomacy. Qiao Xian responded with a smile. Xiao Yunduan's gaze grew intense as he held her tightly. "It's getting late, let's take a break." Qiao Xian met his gaze, and her heart raced. She blushed and averted her eyes, whispering, "All right." Xiao Yunduan lifted her in his arms and headed back to the bedroom. In early summer, roses were in full bloom, and durian flowers blazed with crimson. Peonies were also at their peak. During this splendid season, women in the capital often hosted various grand events to appreciate the flowers. Some had extended invitations to Qiao Xian, including the wives and daughters-in-law of Xiao Yunduan's colleagues or those connected to officials from the Crown Prince's faction. Social engagements were inevitable. While Qiao Xian preferred to prepare delicious meals at home and spend her husband's breaks exploring mountains, visiting lakes, and enjoying the landscapes of Yunshui town, she couldn't decline these invitations. Due to Xiao Yunduan's youthful promise and his high standing in the East Palace, the women always held back their true feelings around Qiao Xian. Some may have displayed their disdain through their attitudes, but none dared to voice it aloud. Qiao Xian, however, was never one to subscribe to such notions. She remained unruffled. The fact that Xiao Yunduan had turned down Tian Shanshan and chosen her was enough to arouse jealousy and resentment among many women for his sake. How could a concubine's daughter like her be so fortunate? Some even envied the financial success Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan had achieved at such a young age since their arrival in the capital. They had purchased a house and over 1,000 mu of land. It was rumored that a small plate of strawberries at Jinquan restaurant cost nearly 1 tael of silver, and carrying more than 500 grams cost over 2 liang. Qiao Xian could supply more than 50 kilograms a day. How much could they potentially earn in a month? Some couldn't help but utter sour remarks in her presence, all of which Qiao Xian skillfully deflected with a smile. She preferred not to retaliate, as she didn't want to come across as confrontational. However, one day, someone visited the East Palace, and Princess Consort personally sent a message, informing her of their plan to visit the fourth prince's residence for a flower viewing event the next day. It was an invitation extended by the fourth Princess Consort. Qiao Xian couldn't decline Princess Consort's request, but inwardly, she felt a tinge of annoyance. What was the fourth Princess Consort's intent? If she genuinely wanted Qiao Xian as a guest, she could have simply sent an invitation. Yet, instead of mailing an invitation, she had Princess Consort deliver the message personally. Chapter 1301, Unconcerned. But Princess Consort had indeed given them those instructions. Qiao Xian had initially planned to inform Xiao Yunduan about this matter. She believed that if Xiao Yunduan knew about it, he would be equally perturbed. Perhaps it was the fourth Princess Consort's strategy, and it might not be worth the effort. Consequently, she decided to maintain her silence and observe the fourth Princess Consort's intentions closely. She was determined to discern the fourth Princess Consort's motives. Qiao Xian refrained from disclosing the actual situation and instead informed Xiao Yunduan that the fourth Princess Consort had extended an invitation for her to visit the mansion for a flower-related event. Anticipating that the fourth Princess Consort would inevitably invite the Princess Consort to the banquet, Xiao Yunduan instructed Xiao Xian to seek the princess consort's support. Given her role as the hostess, the fourth princess consort would not risk any harm befalling Xiao Xian while at her mansion. Xiao Xian responded with a smile. Meanwhile, at the East Palace, Auntie Fu couldn't help but express her disapproval to the princess consort, saying, "You shouldn't have agreed to the fourth princess consort's proposal today. It's quite humiliating. She invited Madame Xiao, and the next invitation should rightfully go to her." "How can it be like this?" The princess consort smiled indifferently and replied, "Who would have anticipated that we would encounter her at court today? Initially, I believed she had no intention of inviting Madame Xiao, but she brought it up, and considering she's my sister-in-law, I couldn't refuse such a trivial request. That would be too stingy." Auntie Fu fell silent for a moment before suggesting, "But Madame Xiao is the spouse of an esteemed officer, and Officer Xiao is highly regarded by the crown prince. The fourth princess consort clearly doesn't hold Madame Xiao in high regard. We could issue one more invitation." Auntie Fu was about to suggest that arranging an additional invitation would be a simple matter for her. However, the princess consort hesitated. "Aunt, that might not be appropriate. Madame Xiao and Officer Xiao could misinterpret our intentions. Besides, Ms. Qiao is Ms. Qiao, isn't she? In all fairness, I feel sorry for Officer Xiao. Sister-in-law, even without mentioning her explicitly in the invitation, you've already expressed a high regard for her. I'm sure she'll be quite pleased. Do you think she'd pity herself instead?" Princess consort cast a disdainful glance. She believed Madame Xiao was ill-suited for the occasion. Auntie Fu was left momentarily speechless but then smiled. Madame Xiao may not be accustomed to such affairs. "Princess consort, it's essential for you to look after her when we visit the fourth princess consort's mansion tomorrow. Remember, if she were to embarrass herself, it would reflect poorly on you as well, and that wouldn't bode well for Officer Xiao." Princess consort nodded with a hint of distaste. "You're right. She's accompanying me, so her actions do reflect on me. Tomorrow, you'll be responsible for ensuring she doesn't make a spectacle of herself." As for herself, she had too many other matters to attend to. That's what Auntie Fu was there for, and Princess consort acknowledged it with a nod and a faint smile. Princess consort gave Auntie Fu a meaningful look and added, "If she behaves inappropriately, don't hesitate to reprimand her. If she doesn't heed your advice, just inform her that it's my directive." Auntie Fu replied, "Yes, Princess consort." The following morning, Xiao Yunduan chauffeured Xiao Xian and Li Xia, while Qing Yan handled the wagon. As Xiao Xian boarded the wagon with assistance, Xiao Yunduan couldn't resist squeezing her hand. She responded with a warm smile, and Xiao Yunduan reciprocated with a smile of his own. Once she was settled in the wagon, he headed to the Ministry of Revenue's governmental office. Xiao Xian arrived at the East Palace ahead of time, and the princess consort joined her later. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.